Oh, today is D-Day. Today is D-Day. And by the way, there is no debate that this is where sports fans, Eagle fans, pro football fans, fans of any sport come. They come to Big Sills. Hey, welcome aboard, man. Like 26 days to training camp. How you doing? 26 days to training camp. Man, we are here. We are absolutely here, man. We are here. We are here. Got to tell you something. Very seldom do I get an opportunity to make comments on my nemesis. And I'm going to start my program off here today. For the record, we're trying to get to 200 likes. You guys have been great. We've been floating around that number for the last month and a half. You guys have been great. Thank you. Continue to grow the show. Everybody over at the NovaCare Center watches this thing, especially today, because we got some things to say and want to get off our chest right away. You know, listening to Lane Johnson the other day on Rich Eisen made me really realize something. Okay? Somebody wasn't doing their job. Big Sills, what's good with you? My guy, what's up, everybody in the chat? Go Birds. Shout out from North Carolina. Way to go, Eduardo. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. Sills, I want to hear the Eagles' crappy PR department. Kyle's been watching my Twitter page. Nice. Sills, I got your back. The greatest to do it. Most real football person on the net. Dude, that's awesome. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough. Kyle, you ready? You know, listening to Lane Johnson and some of the players that have been talking about Jalen Hurts over at the NovaCare Center and some other shows that they've been doing, not controlled by the Philadelphia Eagle PR department, it's come to my attention that I don't believe Bob Lang and the Eagle PR department have been doing their job. They haven't been doing their job. All of a sudden now we see a plethora of stories coming out on how Jalen's this and that and this. Jesus criminy, man. Hey, Bob, do your fucking job, guy. Protect these players. You mean to tell me you had an entire offseason and you knew one of the top questions that was going to be asked to Jalen Hurts or anybody? What do you make of Nick Sirianni not having the duties any longer of controlling the offense? And you allow Jalen Hurts not to be prepared for media bombardment? And you just allowed that to hang out there the entire offseason for people to make narratives up like me? And you just allowed that? Do your job, guy. That's what your job is, not to worry about what I say. It's to worry about what your players are reflecting of the organization. Do your job. Eagle department has laid an egg in the offseason. Let's do it and go here. How many questions do you think were out there for all these players to have to try to answer? They knew what was going to be asked of them. And then what happened at those press conferences? Jalen makes an offhand comment. Probably didn't think anything of it. And the media people made more of it, including me. Why wouldn't we? You didn't prep him for that? That's your job, Bob. Your team's job is to make sure he sounds like Lane Johnson. Do your job. Shit, man. The people that have had the worst offseason has been the PR department for the Philadelphia Eagles. Worrying about what Craig Hart and Dan Sileo or whomever says is not your priority. Your priority is to make sure your players respond to questions and know they're coming. That's doing your job. Okay? That's doing your job. Davante Adams went out of his way to say CD reminds him of himself and how he's a top 5 wide receiver, but according to you, the Eagle fans, he's overrated. Hey, I wouldn't get upset with that, 304. I'll take A.J. Brown. Actually, overrated? I think more overhyped. More overhyped. Okay? More overhyped. By the way, that's a really nice comment coming from Davante Adams. It's a cool comment. But, dude, nobody's ever going to take CeeDee Lamb over A.J. Brown. I guarantee you, you put A.J. Brown in that slot, 304, and you put him in the slot, and he's going against safeties, you couldn't defend him. You put CeeDee Lamb on the numbers, he's another dude. Okay? This is what Nas says. I promise you, Sills, the Eagles PR team are not worried about the Dan Sileo show. Well, yes, they are. They call my bosses weekly. And Xander Krauss has confirmed that on this program numerous times. And so is Joe Krause. They do care. Direct messages from the owner and GM about my comments on this program. Angelo Cataldi knows it too. And so does everybody in the PR department. And so does everybody in the city of Philadelphia knows it. That's a fact, guy. Look at this guy, Nas. You know what he doesn't want to believe, folks? The truth, which is a lot like people in here. Okay? Oh, Xander came on here numerous times and says, it's a fact. My dad and I get calls every week from the Eagles about Dan Sileo. Hey, Nas, whether you believe it or not is not important to me. Honest to God. Okay? Honest to God, it does not matter to me. So if you don't believe it, I don't really care. I've been doing this for 37 years. Okay? Could you imagine there's no way it would? It would. CD coming to Philadelphia to play with this former teammate and cornerback. Dude, I'll take the guys they have. If the PR department didn't prep Hurts, why wouldn't they just have Hurts go on to one of those outlets and recant and clarify his statements? Because they don't care. They don't care. They don't have to be held accountable, JM, because the media in Philly doesn't hold them accountable anymore. That's why. They don't care about that. That's not important to them. Controlling how you talk or write stories about them is all they care about. That's it. I don't care. And by the way, they have clarified it through Howard Eskin, through people saying it's not a brand new offense. You've got everyone coming out saying that. You got these news stories, Jalen's this, Jalen's that. You got Lane talking now. Okay? Steve goes, hold them accountable to what? Not lying. It seems like they shit on the players to keep themselves looking good. Spa, you know that. They shit on players and coaches all the time. Shit on Doug. Shit on Wentz. Shit on Hurts. It doesn't matter. As long as the owner and the GM look good and the front office looks good, everybody is sacrificial to them. Seals, AJ or Andre Johnson? Andre Johnson all night. I'm prejudiced on that. So, Mitchell, not a fair question, but I do think Andre Johnson's better. Look at the quarterbacks that he had to play with, too. Name me one decent quarterback that Andre Johnson played with and made the Hall of Fame. Andre Johnson's more compatible to Terrell Owens because Terrell Owens never played with a decent quarterback outside of Donovan McNabb. What quarterback did Jeff Garcia? Who? Tony Romo? Okay. Those aren't right home guys or first ballot Hall of Fame guys. Okay, so again, hey, Eagle guys, you've had a horrible offseason. Your PR department's had a terrible offseason. Terrible. Terrible when it comes to messaging. I mean, if you really, and it's my opportunity to call you out now. The Philadelphia Eagle PR department has had a brutal offseason. You know, you allow all those press conferences and comments to be made, and you let that hang for 6 weeks until training camp. Now you're coming out with all these stories and other publications to try to make it all look good. And the messaging, they're everywhere. These people are so easy to read. They're more predictable than what the 2023 Philadelphia Eagle offense was. Okay? James Carver. My only Xander gripe is that I can't pull a flexing gift subs to JAKIB at the moment. But he said he's going to work on it. James, we love you, man. You've been a real absolute staple here, and we appreciate you the way you help build the pro. By the way, James, you're one of the many people that are in here that we thank very much for helping build the show up. Thank you very much. Maybe, and you know what? Sometimes I don't say that enough. There are so many people that would be all over doing an interview with Jalen to clear all this up. All he would have to do is accept one and do it. Instead, he has teammates running cover for him. Sam, that's exactly what I see too. You got Lane Johnson doing his job for him. You got Lane Johnson doing his job. Absolutely. Hey, Jalen's doing this. He's more. By the way, I believe Lane. I believe Lane. But one more time here before we move on to the topics. Hey, Bob Lane, do your job. Help your players out for prepared questions that you know are going to be asked about the new offense, the new coordinators, Jalen's role. What do you think's of Nick? That's your job, dude. Not to worry about what Dan Sileo says or Craig Carton. That's not your job. It's not your job. I want to throw some things at you here. There was an idiotic comparison that was made on the internet and on X. People were trying to tell me after 51 starts with Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. And I put a poll question up on my Twitter page. I'm going to show you something here. Let me ask you this. How many people believe, and this goes into who he'll always be compared to. Get this, Miami is not going to offer Tagovailoa a market value deal. How many people here believe that Jalen Hurts is a better passer than the reigning yardage leader from 2023, Tua Tagovailoa? Who thinks that Jalen's a better passer than Tua? By the way, Tua's played, I think, in the last 3 years, 7 fewer games. How many people in here believe that Jalen's a better pocket passer than Tagovailoa? Right now. Supposedly, he's not getting a market value deal. Tua's problem is concussion history. Makes him too much of a risk, unfortunately. That's truly a narrative, relative. That's truly a narrative that you have to take into consideration. That's totally true. Xander trolling from Panera Bread. Love you guys. Xander and Big Sills. Bows to greatness. Awesome stuff, dog. Thank you, James. Appreciate that, brother. Tua all day, no doubt. Tua's most definitely not being offered a market deal. That's a shame. But I do think one of the reasons is he's not being offered a market deal is because of the injury issues. Okay? They still gave Burrow that deal. And let's not forget something. Tagovailoa threw for the most yards in pro football last year. Something Hurts will never do in his career. He will never do that in his professional career. He'll never lead the league in passing yards. Okay? He's not a better passer. Bob, he's not a better passer anywhere. He's never been a better passer, Jalen Hurts, than Tagovailoa. I'm going to prove a point to you. Comparing Jalen Hurts to Joe Burrow is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely the most ridiculous thing on the planet. He's more compatible right now to Tua, and that's almost not fair. So let's look at it. In the last 3 years, from the pocket, Tua's got 449 a year in attempts. Hurts, 476. Completions, Tua 303. Hurts 307. This is a guy who's in and out of the lineup, too. Tagovailoa. Jalen wouldn't survive in Dallas. No, he would not. He would not survive in Dallas. Yards. Tua 3608 last 3 years. Jalen Hurts 3567. Completion percentage. Tua 67.3. Hurts 64.4. Tua touchdowns 23. Jalen 20. Interceptions both at 10. Quarterback rating 98.7 for Tua. 92.6 for Hurts. Tua's a better player. No, take the back. He's a better quarterback. If you're going to play him like you did in 23 with Kellen Moore, and you continue to go down this route, Tua's numbers are going to improve. Hurts's won't. Or stay the same. Okay? That's your comparison. Let's not forget, this guy's been in and out of the lineup because of injuries. Miami's hedging their bets right now because of injuries. I don't think because of the player, but because of injuries, and then potentially not giving him a market value deal. Trying to turn Jalen Hurts into a pocket passer is doomed to fail. It is. He is the best when throwing on the run. Completely true. You got to move the pocket for him. Give him more bootlegs and rollouts. That's how they trained Aaron Rodgers. Okay? That's what they did. I mean, time for Hurts to see Dr. Phil. Now, listen, I'm going to make a point on something. I heard this with Les Bowen this morning with Xander on Birds 365. Sills, would you have said the same thing about Tom Brady when Brady had less than 3,800 passing yards? Different NFL, dude. Rules are completely changed. 25 years ago, NFL to today, it's not the same league. You know this and I know this. Receiver rules are different. Defenseless wide receiver now is more prevalent on calls. So is pass interference. The game is completely different than it was 5 years ago. Shit, maybe even 3 years ago. It's a different NFL. There's more rules that are accessible to the offensive players. How many defensive rules have been changed in the last 25 years? The block, the back block, the hip drop. The hip drop doesn't help the NFL defensive guys. It helps the offensive guys. Look at this guy go like this. Excuses. Excuses for the league changing? Right in front of your eyes this offseason. This guy says that, hey, let me ask you something, guys. Let's go with Senor here. Because Senor says excuses. So when the NFL, with the NFL taking the hip drop tackle away, do you think there's going to be more missed tackles? Or do you think there'll be more tackles this year and better tackles this year in the league? Now, this is changing the game. This is a different league this year compared to last year. Do you think there'll be more missed tackles this year in the NFL because they're taking away the hip drop tackle? Tell me, what do you think? Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay? Yes or no? Do you think there'll be more of that or less of that? So passing yards should be inflated now. Yes. Hoss, if Baker Mayfield can throw for 4,100 yards, don't you think it's easier to complete a pass in today's NFL than it was 20 years ago? You're taking plays away. You can't sack the quarterback. By the way, get this. You can't sack the quarterback. We don't even know what a sack is. You can't hit a quarterback, and everything is subjective. But Senor's going to try to tell you the game is the same as it was 25 years ago when Brady first got into the league. In his first 5 seasons in, he threw for 3,800 yards. Yeah, okay, guy. Do you know what I'd like to take a look at that number. As a matter of fact, who led the NFL in passing yards 25 years ago? What was that? We'll say 2004? Let's just go 20 years ago. Okay? Let's just go 20 years ago, Senor. Who led the NFL in passing yards in 2023-24? In 2020 and 2003. Who led the NFL in passing yards in 2003? 4,200 yards. So Brady had 3,800, threw for 400 more. He was right there. Peyton Manning led the NFL with 4,200 yards. Brady had 3,800. He was one of the top guys in the league at the time. What's your point? You just said he had 3,800. Bro, it's a different league. It's a different league. I'm not debating it. You know it is. And don't forget the offense holding only occurs if hands hit nameplate, but a defender's hands hit shoulder pads and it's defensive holding. And how do you even sack really without possibility of roughing? Every time it's a gamble. No question, James. It's impossible to defend. It's impossible. They want high offense. Thank you, James. They want high offense. So when Senor's, it's a great take by James. I read it. It's a great take. Okay, it's a great take. If you look at D, if you don't agree with Dan, whatever, guy. I don't give a shit if you agree with me, dude. You really think the NFL passing game is the same as it was 25 years ago? when they just took a play away last year that is going to have a direct impact on how you try to get receivers on the ground? Man, idiotic. Absolute idiotic. Idiotic. Hey, I can't tackle and I can't sack the guy anymore. You got to Sills, NFL is literally playing flag football now. That's right. That's why wide receivers, it's the big. Hey, Kyle, let me show you something here. You know why the big position now in the NFL is wide receiver outside of quarterback? And these guys soon are going to be making the same kind of money that quarterbacks are making. You got a guy in Minnesota making $35 million now. You want to hear something? Just 6 years ago, the National Football League's quarterbacks, that's what you were paying Carson Wentz, wasn't it? When Carson Wentz signed that massive deal, what was he getting, $38 million? How long ago was that? Hey, by the way, how long ago was that Carson Wentz deal? I wish Sills would go more angry like JMC does when he goes angry Santa. Thank you, James. Okay? Tell me this. Oh, Senor, you're right. It's the same game. It's the same game. It's the same game. Let's move on here. I'm sick of this. You will try to make any excuse for this dude. And by the way, I got a comment here that I heard Les Bowen say that I thought was brilliant today. I played in the 70s and I could never play in the league today. It has changed at least 3 times. Bill, absolutely. People that say that shit, they're just making an argument to make an argument. Everyone knows the wide receivers can't be hit. You can't chuck them down the field any longer. You can't do any of that shit. And he knows that. You can't touch these receivers. That's why that position has become so prevalent in salary, because you can't hit them. That's why nobody plays running back. They're all the kids that were in high school that were potential running back candidates. Do you know what they do? They're now playing wideout. You see more prospects coming out of college that play wideout than any other position in the league. It's littered every year. There's no running backs. It's wide receiver. Why? Well, because they don't get hit. They touch the ball 4 times a game, and they get $35 million a year. Who wouldn't want that job? Who wouldn't want that job? Right? Who would not want to have that gig? I mean, Sales, go to his, I'm sick of this. Just like JMC. It's going to happen, people. So elsewhere for cheerleaders. Hey, James, it's okay. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Hey, Nas, you bet, man. I'm so happy white guys are I'm so happy that the white guys are getting a chance to get paid. Listen how this guy, what he wants you to say. Jesus, criminy. I love those kind of comments. Shows you how dumb he is. Oh, you're perfect for the debate tonight, guy. You're perfect. Oh, my God. Absolutely. Hey, Nas, I love that comment. Yeah, man, that's what I'm doing. I'm mad that the black guys are getting paid. Oh, unbelievable. Oh, wow. Oh, man. Oh, man. No, I think it's funny. Anything. No. It's a joke. It's, that kind of stuff is funny because it's just lowbrow thinking stuff. And, of course, people who want you to run under your desk. And I don't, it's funny. Hall of Famer Paul Warfield led the undefeated 72 Miami Dolphins with 29 receptions. The game has changed. Big Sills, what are you looking to see per preseason games? I like that. I want to see the young defensive players get in there, get some reps. I want to see the linebacking core play. I want to see the corners, and I want to see how they're going to shuffle the cornerbacks and how they're going to play in the secondary. That's what I would like to see. I'm more interested in that. And I'd probably be interested at the right guard position, what they're going to do. Yeah, it's a great take, Mr. Perez. So to me, my number one for preseason, how's that secondary going to shuffle out? Who's going to be in the slot? Who's going to be your safeties? Who's going to be your corners? It's got to be Slay on one of them at least right now. Who's the other corner going to be? You know, I want to see that. I want to see Barkley, but I doubt they'll play Barkley a lot. You know what, though, how you're going to tell with Barkley? Whoever the running back is back there, and if Jalen gets any reps or anything, I don't know how many reps, and I don't know how Kellen Moore. Hey, by the way, 304. Are you in here, 304? I have a question for you on Kellen Moore. Did he play Dak in the preseason when he was the offensive coordinator? When he was there for 5 years? Did he play Dak? Did Dak play for the Cowboys in the preseason a lot? Because I don't remember watching a lot of preseason ball games. Because that'll be something to be interested in if Jalen Hurts plays a little more preseason football this year. I know they had a problem with that during the Jets game. I think that was last year or the year before. With all the changes on both sides of the ball, any chances we'll see starters more in the preseason? Relative. I think with the new coordinators too, that you're probably going to want to see that a little bit more. That's what I would see. And that's what I would hope. Kellen Moore won't have a say in that. It's a Howie call. Well, what's Nick's role when it comes to that? Dak would play like a series or two, says James. Well, I'd like to see Jalen play a series or two. I think it'd be beneficial. Those are quality reps. That controlled scrimmage stuff, I don't mind it. I don't mind the controlled scrimmage stuff. But to me, I also want to see the starters possibly get in there. And let's see how that connection is between Kellen Moore and with Jalen Hurts in the exhibition season. Probably to play Jalen for understanding motion. I'd like that, Maxon. That makes a lot of sense. After last season, I'm sure Jeff and Howie want everyone to play some preseason. Jason, I think you're right. I think you're right, dude. I think you're right. I think they're going to want to play some of these guys. You know, I heard something today on Birds 365. By the way, I think we got the best shows on JAKIB. And Les, who's covered the Philadelphia Eagles for generations. By the way, I like the conversation on Jason Kelce that Xander brought up. You think Jason Kelce's a bigger personality right now than Charles Barkley? Coming out of Philly? Do you? Dan, does Nakobe Dean play in preseason? I sure hope so. Sills, I sure hope the Jets Prince, put that back up, brother. Or Senor, put that back up. I appreciate it. Sills, I hope the Jets head coach Robert Saleh gets fired and the Eagles hire him to replace Nick Sirianni. You know, man, I wouldn't want a defensive-minded guy with all that offensive talent being the head coach, but I'd surely love him to be the Eagles defensive coordinator going forward. He's a heck of a coordinator. And there is one thing that Jets team is good at, that's defending. That's a good-looking defensive group. They're putting good people on that side of the ball. I think the Jets are going to be better this year defensively than they even are offensively. I'd like to see him. Prince says Barkley's a megastar. Man, every single month, though, it just seems that Jason Kelce's star is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know what? Like we said yesterday, his how people, look to him and how they're attracted to him and how they love listening to him. He's accessible too. He makes himself accessible. He's relatable, accessible. He's all those things. I got to say, of all the people that I've ever remembered coming out of Philadelphia, when it came to gigantic personalities, Barkley and him, Bryce Harper's not a big personality. He's just not. He's not that, he's not Reggie. Like something like that. And he's got a great aura about himself. But Barkley and Kelsey, Jerome Brown was like that. Jerome Brown was a little like that. Charles Barkley and I were once damn good friends. I have the best Barkley stories. Hey, Mark, my friend out in Arizona who passed away, Tony Brown, was friends with him out in Scottsdale. Said he's one of the great salt-of-the-earth guys. Sales, Bob Brown, love these takes. Hurts' arm does not bother me. Hurts, and put that back up, Bob. Here we go. Sales, Hurts' arm does not bother me. Does not bother Jeff and Howie. Unless more proves me wrong, this organization has not hired a coach to improve Hurts' issues. Agreed. They signed a quarterback, not the right quarterback for his team. That's correct. That's correct, dude. I think Kellen Moore is a good coordinator. But, you hear people, and I hear John McMullen saying this all the time, if you're a good coordinator, you should be able to adapt to the quarterback's skill set. That's not what they're doing in today's NFL. And there's no quarterback coach in the history of the league that's ever been a great coordinator that changes their playbook for a guy. They change the player out. They don't do that. Vic Fangio brought his style of defense in and his scheme. He's not changing because of the players that are here. Shit, they want to run 34 base. They don't have 34 personnel. They're still going to run it. Shouldn't he not change? Now, I'm hearing they're going to go 4-3, and I think they probably will more because he's going to have to play that because you don't have the linebackers to play 34. You just don't. Sean McVay doesn't change. Kyle Shanahan doesn't change. None of these guys change. And what's his name says, Andy changed for Vick. What did you win? Michael Vick is the most overrated player in pro football history. He's the most overrated player at the quarterback position in NFL history. What did he win? Nothing. The most he ever got to, I think, was a conference championship game when he was in Atlanta. What else did he do? Hey, Niner goes, Vick was elite. Elite, doesn't that mean you got to win? What did he win? What did Michael Vick ever win? Hey, by the way, I loved watching Michael Vick play. Oh no, you got a different conversation on me there. I loved watching Vick play. Michael Vick was sensational. Electric. Dual threat. Fun to watch. You know who he reminds me of? He's a better version of Lamar Jackson. It's funny, man. Who would you take? Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, or Michael Vick? Who would you take to build your team? Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick, or Jalen Hurts? Who would you take? He changed the game in college and then did the same in the NFL. He didn't change the game. He never won. Vick. 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 Dude, LJ, stats matter to players. That's how you get paid. They do matter. Once again, you're talking as a fan. Stats matter to players. That's why you get paid. You don't get paid on winning. You get paid on numbers. Nobody said that Michael Vick was not entertaining. I just got through fucking telling you he's one of the most exciting players to watch. And that's why he was paid. Wasn't paid because he won. He was paid because he was exciting to watch. And he had numbers. That's it. My God almighty. Don't you know the difference? Players in pro football are not paid on wins. They are paid on what they produce. You can't get that through your head. Stats matter to players in salary. This is not a debate. Justin Jefferson is not paid for wins. He's not paid for wins. You think TJ Watt is paid for wins at $30 million in Pittsburgh? Or is he paid because he gets sacks? It's simple. Like I said, Cousins is the benchmark. He's made more money than any quarterback in pro football history. He ain't paid because he's won numerous championships. He's paid because he puts up 4,700 yards a year, 30 touchdowns, and puts up gigantic numbers. That's it. Not wins. Has nothing to do with it. Dual Threat goes, go back and watch Vick on Monday night. Dude, he's exciting to watch. Electric. One of the great players to watch. But when it came to delivering for his team, he never did. Now, wait a minute here. So, Michael Vick never delivered. And he was paid and put on Madden, and they had him in numerous what have you when it came to promoting the league. Jalen Hurts was never anything close to that. Now, JM, that's a great point. Vick missed his prime. That's a fair comment, JM. Here's James. Vick's impact only came in college. He just did the same college game in the NFL, but he had zero impact in the NFL. Vick was fun to watch, but he made no impact or change in the NFL. I'll take Josh Allen over him any day. Yeah, sounds right. Absolutely. Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Okay. Now, again, remember what he said when he got to Philly? Remember what he said? He got to Philly, goes, I never knew how to read a defense. I just played schoolyard football my whole career. I mean, I played schoolyard football. I got to Philadelphia, and he helped me learn how to read defenses. My game took off and changed under Andy Reid. That was late in his career. Can you imagine being 10 years into your career? Obviously, with the whole legal issues that he had, that paused his growth as a player too. But can you imagine playing 10 years based on just skill set and your ability to play and how electric you are, and you didn't know how to play the position? I mean, it shows you how really gifted he was. But it didn't make an impact on bringing home championships in Atlanta, Philly, Pittsburgh, wherever he was. He never took the time to study the game. That's on Vick. Vick didn't have the propensity to be able to read defenses, or he didn't have the coaches that were willing to help him, like Andy. Okay? Once again, his postseason record, if I'm not mistaken, is atrocious, right? Under 500. Didn't really do anything. So you need to run a system that works for their skill sets. I take Vick's arm, Lamar's legs, Hurts' football IQ. I don't think Hurts has got big football IQ. I don't think he has football IQ. I think he has to still develop that. I think you can develop that. Brady talked about it all the time. Brady still talks about it. It's not a rip. It's learning to play the position. I don't think he has a strong IQ on football reading defenses. I think that's a thing that you have to develop and continue to get better at every year. Brady says it. If you're not studying, you're not watching game film, I think Jalen's decision-making and his propensity to absorb knowledge is exceptional. And I think his willingness to want to do it is there. And do I think he can? Yes. Do I think he's there? Not remotely close. He's not a stupid person. You know who's a stupid person? Jeff George. That's a dumb player who never got it and never understood the nuances of playing the position. He's dumb. Vick just didn't do it. Okay? He just didn't do it. Jason brings that up too. Hurts can't even read a blitz yet. Well, it takes time. That takes time. I can't wait to get to this topic here. And this is something that Les Bowen said today on Birds 365. I'm going to get to it here. I'm going to read a couple more of these. Sills, let's talk football IQ. Who has Hurts had to work with has helped him develop his IQ? I don't think Shane Steichen developed his IQ. That decision-making RPO is predetermined and pre-snap. What he's going to do in his own. No, I'll take that back. RPO is not a pre-snap read offense. RPO is once you hike the ball, you're making decisions on where you're going based on what they're doing in front of you. Pre-snap read, that's not a pre-snap read offense. So he didn't really have to think too much in that offense. It was kind of fail-safe for him. Jalen's decision-making like this was excellent. Pass, run, throw, keep it, hand it off. Yeah, I thought it was exceptional. But him sitting in the pocket, he's not exceptional yet. And I believe that's why they brought Kellen in to help his pocket presence. RPO is that's a really great take. RPO is a fast break offense. That is for sure. Hey, by the way, I never compared Mahomes to Hurts. I said Mahomes wouldn't be who he is without Reed. I would say this to you. I don't know, a little bit. You can't say that. Well, then Tom Brady, then you agree Tom Brady would never be who Tom Brady is without Belichick, right? No, I got it, JM. We're good, brother. JM. Then if we're going to put that in there, though, Brady would never be Brady without Belichick, though, right? It's all good, JM. We're boys, man. I got that. Yeah. Hard to say what Mahomes would have been. I think he had a lot to do with Alex Smith and him sitting there watching the game, too. Forrest has got a nice one. Jalen is a mix of McNabb and Russell Wilson. I like that, Forrest. I actually like that. McNabb's a borderline Hall of Famer. Russell Wilson is a Hall of Famer. I actually like that. I actually dig that. Bradshaw had 4 rings. If you remember right, too, Steve. Bradshaw, his first 2 Super Bowls were more of a run-oriented offense with Rocky Bleier and with Franco. That last one at Pasadena at the Rose Bowl against the Rams, he was exceptional in that game. He was exceptional in that football game. I think he threw for over 300 yards in that game. Swan and Stallworth were insane great in that ball game. Jailer's a mixture of himself. No. He's not. And you know what? Now we're going to get to this topic. Seals, do you think Mekhi Becton starts over at the right guard spot? Man, I'd like to see that. I don't know if they look at him as a right guard, though. You know, until Hurts puts in the classroom work instead of the weight room, problem with the weight room stuff, results will be the same. There's a reason why Brady and Manning look like they never touched a weight. It's true. Brady and Manning couldn't jump over a stack of quarters, but they're the best players to play in the pocket, maybe of all time. And they were never athletic. Get this. Those two guys are probably the best pocket passers of all time and won a lot. Right? Then Jalen Hurts is 10 times the athlete those guys are. What does his athleticism being able to run around have to do with winning games? Nothing. Has nothing to do with it. Now I'm going to get to this topic here. By the way, Xander at 3:30 and Mark Farzetta at 4:30. Okay? Les Bowen said something, and I thought it was a casual take. And I started thinking about it, and it was really great. Are you sure, and are we sure, that Jalen Hurts really hated the 2023 offense? Or did that offense just need to be refined? And maybe that's kind of one of the reasons why he's a little aggravated with it. Everyone, I keep wondering why they want to change it. Does Jalen? What makes you say Jalen wants to change that offense, but not refine it? Maybe he did like it. How do you know he didn't? His comments coming out this offseason have been kind of to that point. Here we go again. When Les said that, I was like, you know what? I never asked that question. How do we know he doesn't? And because get this, now that you're going to do it again, here we go again. How do you know you're not going to be on the same conveyor belt this year where you're going to take time to have the offense matriculate its way into how the players are going to hear it, execute it, see it, play week in and week out with it? So there's going to be a learning curve. Common sense would tell you that. The question, and the big question, is going to be, how long is the learning curve going to be this time compared to what they did a year ago? Why didn't you leave well enough alone, come back with the same offensive coordinator? Maybe he would have got better. Maybe Jalen would have enhanced the system a little better because they would have known what they were capable of doing. Brian Johnson wasn't going to get a head coaching job. You could have came back, and Shane Steichen had a year and a half to run that offense that he had with Hurts. You know, he's the only guy that has had more time with Hurts than any other coordinator that he's had in the last 4 years. By the way, something else that was brought up. We're year 5 now. We are half a decade in with Jalen Hurts' career. He's going into his 5th year. 5 years. Okay? 5. We're not talking any longer about a young player. He's 5 years into his career. What are we doing here? This is Baker Mayfield shit. 5 years in, you don't know who he is yet? I mean, dude, Patrick Mahomes, some of the best time he said he had was sitting on the bench and learning behind Alex Smith. I've heard him say it. So that, in theory, was a productive year for Patrick Mahomes. Watching Andy Reid, watching him. Those guys go through the building of the offense. How you throw screens, timeouts, all of that. He said that he learned. Jalen Hurts is going into his 5th year as a professional football player. I mean, dude, we're talking about, and this is year 4 of him starting. This is not a young player any longer. This is a young player when it comes to understanding the nuances of playing the quarterback position. That's for sure. Because he is not with high IQ yet at reading defenses, reading blitzes, short passing game. All of that is on display every game. And it hasn't gotten better. Now, I heard Les say he didn't play awful last year. No, he just wasn't good enough. Like what Emmanuel Acho said, Hurts going to win games. But he ain't going to win any games. And I heard Xander go, I saw him in the Super Bowl. That's a whole different guy. Hey, dude, I saw Colin Kaepernick almost beat the Ravens. Or I saw, almost beat the Ravens, Colin Kaepernick, in the Super Bowl. He was electric in that Super Bowl. And he was out of the league 3 years later. I've seen guys have moments. Shit, Nick Foles never fulfilled his NFL career off that Super Bowl moment. Think about that. Jalen Hurts' greatest moment was Super Bowl, and it was a Super Bowl loss. Nick Foles' greatest moment was a Super Bowl win. And both guys, I mean, at the end of the day, Nick Foles, that was his greatest moment. How do you know that's not Hurts' greatest moment? Because he's better? He's a better athlete? I don't know if he's a better athlete than Nick Foles. I don't know if he is. Okay? Who ran like Vick before Vick? Sure, others scrambled, but Vick was a real threat to take it to the house. Vick Mad fought the stereotype, and Vick made it popular for the next generation. But again, dude, Vick, he's great to watch. He was a fabulous, fabulous athlete playing the quarterback position. And you know what? Who knows what would have happened if he doesn't go to prison? It could have been something even better. No question about it. No doubt. What would that thing would have looked like in Atlanta? Okay? Tarkington never ran when it came to touchdowns and such, but he scrambled a lot in the pocket, moved around, and created passing lanes. But if you notice something, Angelo, about Tarkington, the way he ran, he didn't run up the field. He ran more behind the line of scrimmage trying to create passing lanes for his wideouts. Actually, Ben did that, Roethlisberger. Okay? Sills, I think we know who he is. The best version of Hurts is from 22. The team does not want the best Hurts. That blows my mind. They want their Hurts. I'll take 22 Hurts and run them hard. Yeah, agreed. Now, there's people, and by the way, we'll hear Xander at the bottom of the hour. He says this, that would be insane. And to his point, it would be insane to think that Kellen Moore is going to come in here and not implement that, what he saw in 22. I agree. I do. But that's not what we saw in 23. So now they're going to do a complete about face and implement more of 22 with Kellen. Well, why didn't they do that? And why didn't Nick do that? And for the record, maybe Jalen didn't want to do that. I think that Les Bowman comment is a great one. I think it's a great one. It was said today on Birds 365. Are you sure Jalen didn't like the 23 offense? Hey, look, I'm sure he hated the turnovers. And he probably looks at it, that's on him. And he's got to get better on progression reading, picking up blitzes. But at least he would have went into this year with the nuance, knowing what was to be expected of him in that offense. Why would you change that whole thing up? And by the way, you know what? He probably sees it that way. Because Les said this when he's asking a question. He's right. Les is a professional interviewer. He knows what he's doing. You know what he do? Every time you ask a question, you already know what the answer is. when you're good at what you do. You know what they're going to say, or you assuming what they're going to say to have your response. Remember, you ask questions knowing that they're going to give you a respected response. It's called leading the interview to get the sound bites you want. You just don't ask random questions. I don't ask random questions. I know what the guy's going to say because that makes it so that I already know what my response is going to be, and I'm looking for a sound bite. I'm looking for a sound bite. I'm trying to make the guy say something. That's interesting. That's what good interviewers do. Stern's the best at it. He used to be. He used to be. Everybody missed when Jalen said he felt like a freshman every year learning a new offense. No one mentioned that. He said that this offseason again. Hey, man, here we go again. He actually said that. I'm going to pull that quote up because I may still have that because he said, hey, man, here we go again. How do you know he didn't like last year's offense? Did anybody ask him? Everyone's under the assumption that it was a bad offense. That's why I keep fighting some of you and saying this. Okay? Oh, I mean, you listen to him, and he's like, and you guys fight me on it. When I go like this, everybody else had a great year. All Hurts' teammates. Hey, let me say this to you. Let me ask you guys this question. Do you think revisionist BS, the scheme was trash? Okay, Ed Reyes, I'll ask you this since you put that there. Ed Reyes, did Jalen make his teammates better last year? Yes or no? Did he make his teammates better last year? Yes or no? JM goes, absolutely not. Then how'd they get raises? JM says absolutely not. How'd they get raises? That's right, Joshua. They got contracts. Everyone's numbers went up. If Jalen Hurts played exactly how we did in 23, but had 22 defense, what do you think would have been? I think you guys would have been in the NFC Championship game. Or at least in the second round, the divisional round. At least in the second round. Jalen made himself look worse, but he still was all right. Just turnovers. Okay, Forrest. But he made his teammates better. I'm trying. I didn't think of what Les said. And the objective out of your quarterback, like, hey, how about this? Did Brock Purdy make his teammates better last year? Did he make his teammates better? I think so. Isn't that the objective of the quarterback, is to make everyone around you better? Like, nobody would ever look at Brock Purdy and go, that's the most important guy in the huddle. Be McCaffrey, Trent, Debo, Kittle, clearly McCaffrey. Sixers drafted Jackson Mahomes. I'm sure he'll be a great pick, the Sixers. Daryl Morey. How long has that guy got left? You see ESPN I'm down on both knees praying for the Knicks to be good. Jesus criminy. What happened to that place? They actually used to be a good organization to watch, cover something like a draft. You can't watch that shit anymore. It's like watching me. But I tell you, I'm not objective. That's not what I do. But I don't call myself a journalist either. I am not objective. I am not a journalist. I've never been, and nor will I ever want to be. It's not what I do. I have no objectivity whatsoever. That's not what a talk show host is. And Reyes goes, suddenly intangibles matter to Sills. You think reading a defense matter? Here, get this, intangible. Let me ask you something, M. Reyes. You think reading a defense matters? Or no? Reading blitzes, you think that matters? Or no? Is that an intangible? Being able to pick up blitzes? Or that doesn't matter, right? Dude, I'm not talking about being a leader and working hard. You want a pat on the back for what? Doing what you're supposed to do? Sure, kid. Sure. Right? Defense made it hard for offense, had to always play catch up and no room for error. Well, when you turn the ball over and you put your defense in a bad position and your defense can't cover anybody, you can't have 3 and outs. 3 and outs and turnovers killed that team last year, and you couldn't win first down. Get this. You were always going to be 1st and 9. But where that thing got equalized was you couldn't win first down. That's exactly what happened in your play sequences. Year before, you were winning 1st and 2nd down. And you were 1st and 9. Think about that. In 2022, you won 1st and 2nd down, and you went 1st and 9 because of tush push. So theoretically, you only had to go 7 yards a sequence instead of 10 yards. That's a game of inches that lead to feet, that lead to yards, that lead to wins. That's the complete difference. Time of possession, all of that was lost in 23 when you had a different ideology on what you wanted your quarterback to look like. Played itself out. I like Bob Brown, one of the more intelligent people in here. Feels the players got better, but the team got worse. The players didn't sacrifice their individual games or trust each other enough to stop the slide. I also think that has a lot to do with the coach not being able to be a troubleshooter. You know, there's one thing that I would love to say, okay? One thing that you look at what even Sean McDermott did, even after they fired their offensive coordinator, what happened? McDermott fixed it. Last year, Niners went into a tailspin. Look at what the Niners did. The Niners had a tailspin losses, I think 3 in a row, something like that. They didn't panic. You did. You panicked. Not just 3 and outs, but also finishing drives and settling for field goals. Almost cost you in those Washington games, didn't it? Right? Almost cost you, right, Daniel? In those it almost cost you in those Washington games. There were so many games last year that it came down to the talent just being superior than the opposing team's talent. That's why you won 11 ball games. Here, Hollywood asked a good question. Manning had how many audibles before the ball was hiked? There'd be one color that they would have. Like Montana had an audible, and it was, I think it was gold 80. And everyone knew the ball was going to Rice in some form or fashion, slant, post, seam, depending on what hash they were on. And when Joe audibled gold, everyone knew. But it was a variation of motions and stuff that Walsh was just so great with the West Coast offense. But Montana was a savant back there. You know, again, I'll tell you something else that hurts Jalen Hurts a lot. Let me put this out there to you. What's the number one most important thing that a quarterback has to be able to do when he's in the pocket? Let's get to Ace here. Love Ace too. Hey, Sills, could it be that Jalen prefers to develop his game because of all the naysayers saying and being benched in school, only wants to run in need? Yeah, but guess what? Let me ask you this then, Ace. Ace, let me ask you this. Do you think that hurt McNabb having that mentality? Oh, I'm not going to run. I just want to show everybody that I'm not a stereotyped black quarterback that I can throw and win from the pocket. Don't you think fighting something like that is kind of dumb? Dude, I'm not going to try to make a point if it affects my game. I'm going to use every asset I have to win ball games. Okay? That's why. Technically, if Hurts wins another conference championship, he will be in the higher of the quarterback achievements. Sills won't acknowledge that. If he wins 2 NFC titles, it's an S9 comment, guy. You can't change scoreboard. I'm not Bayless. LeBron James won 4 championships. I don't give a shit it's 4 and 6. I don't care. He won 4 titles in 3 different places. It's not true. That's not true. All you're doing is lying then. If you don't acknowledge that guy wins 2 NFC titles, bullshit. You have to acknowledge that. Sam says something here. You simply cannot have sustained success if you're basing your offense off your quarterback's ability to run the ball. When he gets hurt and plays through it, he can't run. What happens if it fails? It's correct. How about this one, my friend? Jalen Hurts' legs fail him. You think Jalen Hurts' career would go on as a quarterback in the NFL? Absolutely not. He's in the league because of a dual threat, not in the league because he's a premium passer or an elite passer. I just showed you here. Tua's been in and out of the lineup, and Tua has missed like 10 more games than him. He's got the same numbers from the pocket. Can Seth still come on even though, yes. Yeah, we're working. Seth is right now, and a lot of guys right now are getting ready for the upcoming season because it's the time before the storm, It's calm before the storm. So those guys are all going to be coming on. We tried to get them on last week. Sills, what bothers me about 23 is that the team was 10-1, and that was in the Super Bowl. The prior years could find anything to rally around to save their season. Where the F was this mentality? I don't think you had the same professionals that you had a year ago in 22. Previous year, Bob. You had Dominic Sue, Linville Joseph. You had Fletcher Cox sitting there. You had a linebacking core that you've not replaced. Think about what this is. You have not replaced your linebackers since 22. I'm awake or you. I love Tua, but I wouldn't give him what he wants. I think you're right. I'm awake or you. Because of the concussion and the one hit away from being a jar of Skittles? Probably so. Probably so. Fat Mac says Devin White. Well, we'll see. That year, in 2022, you had a linebacker have 159 tackles, and the other guy had 120. Okay? And you haven't come close to that. You haven't come close to that. We shall see what these guys do. There's not one linebacker on that football team right now. I see 160 tackles. Not one guy. You guys are dreaming with the overpaid bum at quarterback and no D. 7 wins maybe at best. Okay? Charlie, the only reason. Okay, Charlie, I brought this up yesterday. Okay? I brought this up yesterday, Charlie. What will be different this year? Kellen Moore? Okay. Okay. Barkley? Okay. And Les said it perfect. Story's going to be Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore. Hey, Sills, I agree that he should utilize his strengths, but you just said without his legs, he is probably not in the league, so he needs to develop. Ace, my problem with Hurts is you guys look at him differently than who he is. He's got a long way to go, man. I mean, is he a little better than Kyler Murray? Kyler Murray doesn't have near the talent that he has. What would Kyler Murray do in that system? What would Kyler Murray, you think, do with the talent in Philly? With Barkley, best O-line in football, 2,000-yard receivers. What do you think Barkley would do? Or Kyler Murray would do? He's a better athlete than Jalen. I don't know if he's a better quarterback. I don't know that. I'm assuming Jalen's better. Leadership skills, too, kind of sucks over there. We're seeing a little bit of not coolness, you know. Jalen just needs to win, and people will leave you alone. At this point, nobody in the media thinks highly of you anyways. Jalen is Cam Newton. Okay. Murray had almost 1,000 yards more passing than Hurts at Oklahoma. And college, I don't, okay. Murray's better statistically, says JM. Jalen, but Jalen's probably a better quarterback. Murray's a better athlete, my opinion. Nobody in the history of football and Major League Baseball has ever been drafted in the first round. No one would ever accuse Jalen of being a better athlete than Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is arguably the most gifted athlete next to Josh Allen in pro football at the quarterback position. I mean, that guy was drafted in the first round by the A's. And he was drafted in the first round by Arizona Cardinals. I mean, there's nobody in pro football history that's ever done that. How come all these other teams don't have the talent like they do in Philly, Sills? Clearly, it can be done. But how come it's just us in San Francisco? Come on, man. You know why. You know exactly why. You know exactly why. It's the payment of the quarterback. By the way, I got to say this to you. I can't believe that Howie Roseman, the cap hit this year for Jalen Hurts' contract is $6 million. That's so insane great. $6 million is the cap hit this year on a $50 million paycheck. It's so great. Excuse me. I'll take that back. Excuse me. I misspoke. 6% of the cap is Jalen Hurts' contract. 6%. So, Charlie, not $6 million. 6% of the $230 million salary cap is Jalen's contract. That's why you've got latitude to do things, and you're able to spend money like that at the perimeter. But I don't believe San Francisco has. I think San Francisco, this is your window, dude. You got to win now, because at the end of this year, you're paying $60 million and more maybe for Brock Purdy. You ain't going to get that love, bro. You're going to have to pay that guy. John Lynch is going to have to pony up. Or you're going to either have to make a decision whether or not that's your guy. That's pretty amazing. 6% of the Philadelphia Eagles salary cap this year, okay, is going to be on Jalen Hurts' contract. That's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. If Murray ever put time in the film room, he could be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. JM. That's why look, he's the most gifted, or one of the most gifted athletes in pro football. But when I got to put a disclaimer in there that, hey, here's a study hall asterisk, or you've got a little addendum in your contract that makes you study more, to me, that's a red flag. Dude, you got to either want to do that, or you're never going to be the player that fulfill your destiny and what kind of people you want, or how people you want them to think of you as when it comes to being a team leader. And that comes with some of the stuff we talk about, but it's just different in Philly with Jalen wanting to be the face of the franchise. Well, if Kyler Murray wants to excel and be the great player that he can be, you got to put the time in when no one's watching. People do evolve, JM. He sounds a lot better out there in Arizona now. I think this is a big year for him. I think this is an enormous year for Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray doesn't do it now, he's never going to do it. Now, some will say, well, don't they have to still put some more talent around him? Yeah, I agree. I do. I think they got to keep continuing. Marvin Harrison's a nice add. They got the kid a year ago from Ohio State, the offensive lineman. Kind of slow in development, but they're still addressing. They got a lot of draft picks, and they got a ton of draft picks next year, and they got cap space. I mean, it would not shock me to see somebody like T. Higgins land in Arizona. T. Higgins and Marvin Harrison, that's what I think that has a chance of looking like. They need another big-time wide receiver down there in Arizona. Maybe a little bit more on their defensive side, too, with the linebackers. But they're building. That new GM down there is doing a pretty decent job in an organization that doesn't do a really good job. Okay? You just said Murray doesn't have Jalen's talent. Once again, you don't understand the quarterback position. I just said this. He's a more gifted athlete than Jalen Hurts. Nobody has ever seen a player drafted in baseball and football in the first round and says that guy's not one of the better athletes in the sport. Jalen's probably a better quarterback. Just like Tom Brady is not the athlete Aaron Rodgers is, but Brady's a better athlete. Rodgers is a better athlete. They're not one and the same, dude. Just because you're a better quarterback doesn't mean you're a better athlete. Peyton Manning and Tom Brady can't jump over a stack of dimes. But it didn't matter. Howie's the GOAT. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much, my friend. The quarterback position is not the best athlete on the field. He's the best thinker on the field because he's got so much to process. That's the problems that we have when we're talking about Jalen Hurts and football IQ. Well, he was raised by his dad. That doesn't mean his dad prepped him to be a progression reader when he played in high school or that he had that at Alabama. He was benched because he couldn't do that. And OU had a system set up for. Why do you think Jalen went to OU? Because it was an RPO offense. Kyler Murray ran it. Fit his system, fit his style. Russell Wilson was a great athlete, drafted in baseball as well. He was. This guy was drafted in the first round. Okay? In both. Russell Wilson was never drafted like that. He was the 3rd round NFL player, and I don't know what round he was drafted in baseball. Murray was drafted in the 1st round in both sports. It's the only person ever to have that happen to. You're going to, I mean, when you hear the word ever and your name's next to it and you're the only one, pretty decent. This is why you can't just have Jalen sitting in the pocket, knowing he has issues going through progressions and reading defenses. He'll always bail out of pocket, even if they're clean. Well, the one thing that he does, Sam, that is way better than Mayfield. Mayfield, when he was in Cleveland, had a propensity with any kind of pressure would take off, especially side door. He would take off. And Jalen sits in the pocket. His pocket presence isn't terrible. But I was going to make a point to you guys. I was going to make a point to you guys that the thing that Walsh told me, Bill Walsh, when we were out in San Francisco, and one of the things that made Montana so great wasn't Joe's arm. It was the fact that Joe could process information so fast. He knew where to go with the ball always. In my opinion, he's a better quarterback reader than what Elway was. Elway wasn't the same. Elway was a gifted athlete, super gifted athlete, but could he read defenses like Montana? Montana would destroy that guy in Super Bowls. Put 55 points up on that Denver team. Barely got the ball back. Hey, JM, that's a great take. You know what, JM? I'm going to tell you a story that Kurt Warner, who's been on this program, said. You know, JM, where he said he learned how to read defenses? Where do you think he said he learned how to read defenses? What do you think? In the Arena League. Because everything is so condensed, right? And you got to make quick decisions. You got to know where to go pre-snap. Pretty insane. He said he learned how to be a better progression reader of defenses based on what he did because he was taught that he had to get the ball out quick in the Arena League. That's where he learned that he had to get the ball out. He said it numerous times. Okay? Look at Sean. Sean says, Sills, you sound like a one-trick pony pertaining to the quarterback position. Sean, that is the most important position right now in your football team, and Les Bone even said it today. The number one thing, the success of your team is not going to be a corner play. It's not going to be a linebacker. It's not going to be a right tackle. It's not going to be a left tackle. It's going to be your quarterback. Either he plays well or you don't win. That's it. It's not hard. And to your point, they're saying the same shit in Buffalo. And they're saying it everywhere else. I think we're having a little issue trying to connect here with Xander. Hopefully we're able to get. I don't see him. I don't see him. Here we go. Let's see if we can get him now here. Hey, by the way, I hear he's on the road because he's got some sort of light construction going here. Let's see if we can bring him up here. Xander Krauss, how you doing, brother?
What up, Sills? How you doing, bro?
All good, man. So what is going on at the Xander pad that you now have to take the show on the road?
It's not good, man. It's not good over at the Xander pad right now. Let me pull up the picture of it real quick. Can you hear me, by the way? It says my internet's not good. All right, cool. Just because it's not great. But we had a tree collapse, knocked out the power all over the neighborhood. So the guys are over there working on it. I was just talking to them. So if you're a construction worker out there, I appreciate you guys. These guys do more important work than we do. Sills, he's like fixing power lines, trying to get everybody on the streets power back up. So I was talking to them, and it's gonna be a little bit until it's back up, to put it mildly. But we're here and we're ready to rumble.
Hey, Xander, let me throw something at you guys. And I loved what you were saying earlier about when you had Les Bowen on and you guys were talking about Jason Kelce. He has turned out to be clearly one of the biggest personalities in the history of Philadelphia sports. You think he's now going to start to roll into that realm of being in that Barkley category, where you're going to see him being considered one of those kind of national figures like Charles Barkley?
Absolutely, and it's even bigger here locally than Barkley ever was, or any athlete that I can think of in terms of. I mean, we've had plenty of big guys, but this is a guy that lives in Philly. I mean, he married a girl from Philly. She's a diehard Eagles fan before she met him. I mean, it's just an unbelievable story. And he's a center, Dan. I mean,
I know.
Where have you ever seen this? I mean,
no
quarterbacks, guys, Allen Iverson, Dawkins, guys like that. Okay, I get it. This is a center. It's an unbelievable story, unbelievable player, and he really embodies the city. And I'm a big fan of him. Obviously, you could see how big the turnout was yesterday down in Seattle. So, Jason, the legend of Kelce continues to grow.
Les Bowen was on today, and he said a ton of great things. I'll tell you, man, you got to go back and watch that interview. And he said, Xander, he said something that I never even broached or thought of. Are we really sure that Jalen Hurts doesn't like the offense of 23? And before you answer that, let me ask you this. Did Jalen make players around him better in 23 in that offense?
Well, I think you bring up a decent point about, everybody got paid. Like how can you not like it if everybody gets paid? But I do think I think Hurts is smart in that he knows that offense wasn't a winning offense late in the year last year. I mean, he knows that it didn't look great. I'm sure he watches tape. He goes back and watches that tape. It looked ugly by every metric. I mean, if you go back and watch the playoff game, that was one of the ugliest offensive performances I've ever seen. And we're talking about a team that is so hell-bent on correcting the defense. Okay, let's correct the defense. How about the offense? Put up 9 points in the playoff game. You're not beating any team in the playoffs with 9 points on the board. So I think Hurts, he likes the offense because he won with it originally, right? He had a different play caller in a similar offense, and he won a lot of ball games. He was an MVP candidate. So maybe from that perspective, yeah, he did like it. And maybe that's why you're seeing some of the comments. Like, he didn't want this much change. And he's like, look, we were killing it. We have 6 bad games now. I got learn a whole new offense. So I see what you're saying, but there's no way to tell. There's no way to know. I mean, he's never going to come out and say it. I think we can allude to it though with some of the comments he's made, right? I mean, we've talked about maybe it's a pushback on the organization or a pushback on the way they're doing things. Maybe it's just that. Maybe he liked the offense. Maybe he was cool with the way things were going, just thought that they could correct it a different way. And now here he is learning a whole new offense, which I don't know how embellished that comment, but you're right. Maybe he did like this offense. He was successful in it. He was nearly an MVP of the NFL in it, right? I mean,
but what I'm saying is maybe what he wanted was just refining of it. Like this year, because look, we realized, and you said it numerous times to me, it's going to take time for this thing to work, right? It's going to take time, right? Okay. Well,
now, here's the other question. How much responsibility
they went through
the
bumps and bruises last year. Why wouldn't they have run that thing back? Okay, with a better play caller, with Kellen, and refining it. Because when Jalen says, hey, this is a brand new offense, maybe he feels like it is, but it's not because of the terminology.
Well, that's why I think we got to be a little bit in a wait and see mode. Like, I'm not ready to sit here and say Kellen Moore is going to, institute or implement an entirely new offense. I don't think that's going to be the case, but you are right. I mean, I don't know where Jalen is on the offense, but how much of it was on him? That's my last question. Like, because John
probably a lot, but he's probably a lot.
With the bubble screens though, and the hot routes and stuff like that. Like, and John, I get this right from John on Birds 365. He's talking to me about it all the time. Every coach that's ever coached football at the peewee level knows what a hot route is. This team did not have hot routes. The quarterback and the receivers didn't go to them. And the bubble screen was their default play when the blitz came. So every time somebody blitzed, they threw a bubble screen and it made Brian Johnson look terrible. Now, I'm not saying Brian Johnson was great. I'm just saying, is there any merit to we needed Jalen and the offense to take another step forward, and the players out there to take another step forward to be able to make that offense look better? I don't know how much truth there is to that, but I think it's a fair question. Absolutely.
But I would say this. If they came out and said, hey, I needed to be better and, and I needed to learn how to read and I needed to just grow in this offense a little more, wouldn't we all have gone like this? Well, shit. Okay. That sounds common. That sounds normal. Instead, they came out with excuses after excuses when you're like, okay, well, Brian Johnson sucks. And you're like, well, wait a minute. The player accountability, if it was more there, that's where the head coach could have stepped in and said, hey, look, this is really on all of us here, that this thing really, we won 11 games last year. We went through bumps and bruises. We didn't look good in the Bucks game, but next year will be better. I would have bought that, Xander. I would have bought that. What you do? Yeah. You had a bad ending to a season and won 11 games. I would have went like this. I think next year's going to be better.
Yeah.
Everybody got paid.
It does bring up the question of, would an experienced coordinator been able to go back to the basics a little bit and get the rhythm back into the offense before you just try to fix it on the fly, right? Brian,
that's probably where he failed.
I don't think Brian Johnson fully had a grasp on what to do. And it's a knock on the players as well. They didn't do anything to fix it either. But that's where I wonder if the experience would have helped. Like, okay, we've gone stale. Let's get back to the basics here a little bit and then go back to building on to that. I don't think they had that last year. And where's my guy, JM? He just brought up a really good point.
The adjustment one?
Just the fact that he couldn't find a hot route, that's not on the coordinator. The bubble screen was a Band-Aid because Hurts couldn't handle a downfield hot route. That's concerning if that's true. And I think there is merit to that line of thinking because hot routes do fall on the quarterback a lot more than people are expecting them. Even a guy like Seth Jr. on the postgame show, he constantly cried about hot routes. I don't think that's on the coaching staff, at least from what I've learned since I've been hosting with John McMullen, since I've been coming on here consistently, since I've been diving deeper into the game. It doesn't seem like that's entirely on coordinators, right? That's on getting to the line of scrimmage. It's like what Brady, you saw that Brady clip, right? The 5-minute Brady clip of how to be a quarterback and all those things. It goes right to that. You got to get into the right play when you go to the line of scrimmage and see what the defense is in. And Hurts hasn't gotten that down yet. And I'm not even knocking him. Like, he's 25. He has time to get that down, but Kelsey was out there, bro. Like, we can't forget that. You know what I mean? Like, Kelsey was out there, and he still couldn't figure it out. Now we're losing Kelsey. We're expecting Juergens to fill that role, which physically I think will be fine. And John brings up another good point where maybe this will force Jalen to learn how to read defenses better, which is a good point. But you lose Kelsey, who was really good at this. It's concerning. We'll see how it plays out. I'm confident he can do it, but it's going to take a bit for sure.
But this goes back again when people, and they misidentify this. I don't think Jalen has good football IQ. I'm not saying he can't develop that into being a great IQ quarterback because Brady and his clip shows you it's constant evolving and reading and recognizing, getting information. It's not something that I'm not calling him a dumbass. I'm calling him a guy who right now in his career, you got to say something too. Like Les said, dude, this is year 5 as a pro.
Yeah.
I mean, you're half a decade, 4 as a starter too. Okay, if not now, when are you going to become this guy? Hey, Michael Vick did it. Michael Vick had 10 years of football, and he got to Indiana, or he got to Philadelphia, and he goes, I never knew how to read a defense until Andy Reid showed me how to read a defense. I had no idea what I was missing out on. I wish I had him earlier in my career. Okay, well, that's why I'm saying his IQ is not really good yet. Will it develop? Maybe another reason why you bring Moore in, because Moore helped develop Dak Prescott's IQ on being able to recognize. So again,
I don't even know if IQ is the right word. And here's what I'll tell you why.
Because it sounds awful that he's dumb. He's not.
Well, no, that's and I think the complexities of the NFL offense compared to a simpler college offense,
like an RPO.
Right. I think maybe that's what's confusing him. But to say it doesn't have a good IQ, I think is shallow, because think about how many coaches this man has had. I mean, he had 4 different college offenses in college, and then he came to the pros. He had Doug Peterson's, then he had Nick's, then he had Shane, then he had Brian. Like, this guy has 8, 9 offenses that he's learned in the last 8 years. So I think there's merit to the continuity element with Jalen, just because of how many there's different he's had. It's like, I can't jack of all trades is a master of none, right? I mean, this guy knows every offense on the planet, but he's not a master of any of them, and then they asked him to be a master last year after NFL defenses have acclimated to his game, have learned what Jalen does, have figured out how to put him in, uncomfortable moments. He wasn't ready to answer the question yet. It's not an indictment on what he can be in the future, but I think it's fair to say that that's plausible, that's what happened last year down the stretch.
Let me ask you something here so that we can make this fair and sound better. You think Brady had a high football IQ his first year as a starting quarterback in New England?
No, but Brady was.
He said he didn't. Man. He said he didn't. But
Brady was a different breed, though. I mean, it took him a while. Yeah, it took him a while.
But get this. He had Belichick helping him recognize what teams were going to pre-snap. Right. You had the greatest defensive-minded coach in the history of the National Football League going against a guy showing you what they were going to do and what you were thinking prior to the snap. You don't think that for 20 years made Tom Brady into the player that he developed into in that clip that you were talking about, Xander, where he's going, hey, man, I evolved into this guy. I think the IQ comment is people will take it as, what, are you calling a guy a dumbass? Absolutely not. Calling him not very smart yet as a starting quarterback in the NFL when it comes to reading defenses. He can't read up blitzes. He can't find hot routes. He struggles across the middle. That's all young quarterbacks. That's quarterback IQ.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. I mean, and this is where does the coaching come into it, where, if Jalen did have an Andy Reid, if Jalen did have a Bill Belichick, if Jalen did have one of these guys that know this stuff like the back of their hand, how much quicker would he progress? Because I think Jalen, the credit to him is, I think he's shown an ability to pick things up quickly. But we get back to the mastering point. Like, he hasn't mastered it yet. He hasn't, and I don't think Brady had it mastered at 25.
Absolutely not.
But Brady did have continuity in the beginning of this year, at least with the head coach, or at least with the guy who was, running the ship. And that's where I think, Jalen is maybe pushing back on this organization with the way they're putting the axe on everybody, and the way they're scapegoating, and the way they're handling even Nick. Like, Jalen might not like Nick, but I don't know if Jalen likes the way they're handling Nick. Because it's probably impacting his.
I think you're getting there.
It's impacting his ability to become a better player in the NFL, and he probably doesn't like that. And I think that's what some of these comments have been this offseason. Look, he's an intentional guy. Everybody gets mad because we're still talking about the press conference. I get it. All right, I'm an Eagle fan. You don't have to explain to me that we sound dumb because we're talking about a press conference from 3 weeks ago. I don't care. It does matter. He did say that for a reason. I don't want to overreact to it. But what's the reason? Let's try and figure it out. That's what we're going to be watching for in the season, is how this thing goes, how it meshes, who's on the same page and who's not. I have a feeling there's a bigger disconnect between the front office, split coaches and players than there is between maybe even Jalen and Nick.
I think this is a great question, and not to do a revised history here, but I like this question here. Let me see here. Do you think JM asked it here? Do you think that Carson Wentz would struggle with these things passing wise in the pocket?
Well, Wentz was a different kind of quarterback. I mean, I don't though. No, I think Wentz had his faults, but this particularly was not one of them. He was your prototypical talented pocket passing quarterback, and he also had the other stuff too. But that was what Wentz was great at. But look, they're two different guys. I can't compare. I'm not going to go apples to oranges. It's a different comparison to me. But I see what he's saying. It's fair to question it. I do. I think it's fair to question it. I'm not ready to say he'll never be able to do it. But I think if you're out there and you're an Eagle fan and you're excited, but maybe somewhat concerned about where we are in terms of a quarterback, I think it's fair. I think it's fair. And I'm not gonna knock on it, but we'll see what he can do. I think this next year is going to be big, man. Like, I think you're going to see, like, all right, who's on the same page and who's not. And I think Jalen and Nick, like I said, I think they might be a little bit more on the same page than people are giving them credit for. I think Jalen is smart enough to look back and be like, boy, we got a meddling organization here, and they're not really going to let the football guys be the football guys. And there's going to be some stray bullets that we catch because of that. And he's smart enough to know that. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating as a player, and I can relate to that. But at the end of the day, that's not an excuse either. You're making $51 million. It's time, brother. Like, if you have a problem, you're the guy. Go make a stink about it. Go do something. Go talk about it. Go address Jeffrey Lurie. You got to do what you got to do. Now, maybe he did do that behind the scenes, but doesn't seem like it yet. But he's got to take control of it at the end of the day. Accountability is what's going to make this team go far, especially at the quarterback position when you have a guy who's making that type of money and has expectations like he has to be a great top 5 quarterback. He was not a top 5 quarterback last year. You could argue he fell out of the top 10 last year. And we got to get him back to playing at an elite level. Let's hope Kellen Moore and Nick are able to get that out of him.
I know now why I have been fired from jobs in the past, listening to Les and John kind of tiptoe around a topic that was on your show today. And I got to tell you, it was dead nails on. The people who have had the absolute worst offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles has been the PR department. Yes, and I'm going to tell you why, man. Les was great in what he said with this. How do you not prepare Jalen Hurts for the number one hot topic question that's going to be asked about Nick having his responsibilities taken from him? And let's just use that one here, Xander. That one topic is going to be a flashpoint, and you don't have a comment. It's like the debate tonight. You know what guys are going to try to go after you with. You want to prepare yourself for things that are going to be said that you could have an articulate response to. Instead, Jalen, in my opinion, was left out there just to say something that he didn't probably even think was a big deal. The PR department now, you're seeing stories everywhere. Jalen's now having barbecues. They're having fish fries. They're doing this. Everybody, all of a sudden now, it's like 6 weeks you have until the 22nd at camp, and you let all that stuff hang out there like that. Was this not more self-inflicted again stuff by the organization and the PR department, and most notably Bob Lang and his guys, for not cleaning this stuff up and having his team prepared?
See, this is where I'm curious where the disconnect was, because this is so obvious. There's no way this PR department didn't hit it. And Jalen Hurts is so intentional. He's not really a guy that you have to like.
There's no preconceived notions.
No, but I mean, even Jalen Hurts is not typically a guy that PR staff is worried about, right? He goes up there. Right, he doesn't like to give the media much. He calls it rat poison. He comes from the Saban train of don't give him anything. And he went up there in that moment, probably like you said, after being coached up on it by the PR team. And he said what he said. That's where there's merit to it. Like, again, people are going to criticize us for talking about it. I don't care. There's merit to it. He said that for a reason. Is it because he's upset with Nick? Is it because he feels like he scapegoated Brian Johnson? Is it because he thinks the owner and the front office are meddling too much? What's the reason? And how much of a disconnect is that going to be when the season comes? And how much is it going to impact how much success we're going to be able to have this year? It's a fair question. We'll see.
But how can the team not be prepared?
They were prepared, Dan. That's my point. Jalen went against them. It's Dan. You say something on YouTube.
So you think he blatantly went against them, knowing full? Wow.
Wait, if you're going to tell me the alternative is that they didn't prep him for that question, that's a flat out lie. I get calls from the PR department at stuff you say. You think they didn't have a conversation with the $55 million quarterback? Hey, they're going to ask you about Nick. No, they had that conversation. Jalen decided to say what he wanted to say. And there was a reason for that. What the reason is, we may never find out. Or we might find out. It might be a thing where we find out 10 years from now. But eventually it's going to come out, and we'll see what it is. I just hope the internal optimist in me is hoping that it doesn't derail the entire season. Because it's tough to think that when you're a Super Bowl contender or you're a team that aspires to go far and to make it far, you can't do that when you're not on the same page. I mean, even on a micro scale, if we want this show to be successful, we can't disrespect one another. We can't hate each other's guts. I don't have to agree with you on everything, but we got to have an understanding that both of us are trying to come together to have a common goal. If they don't have that inside, what's going to happen? The thing is bound to blow up at any point.
I'm going to say something to you here, and I want you to, and I didn't tweet this, and I'm going to, for the first time, say it about that Lane Johnson interview that I found out some information. I know the producer on the show.
Of Rich Eisen, right?
Of Rich Eisen.
Yeah.
What is Rich Eisen? What does he host on weekends?
I'm not sure. I know he's good friends with Howie
The
Roseman,
NFL Network.
Right.
He's on
great
NFL
friends with Howie Roseman, Rich Eisen.
Okay. And from what I'm being told, Bob Lang set up an interview with Lane Johnson to go on the Rich Eisen show.
That makes complete sense to me.
And so that they could dispel some of the comments, because Rich even asked him about him being the guy, what have you, something that a national guy and no national guy saying. So the Philadelphia Eagle PR department is now doing damage control, going around and going onto the mouth of and the voice of the NFL Network, Rich Eisen. By the way, you notice he's not on any other show, but because Howie Roseman knows Rich Eisen works for Jeffrey Lurie. That was a complete setup by the Philadelphia PR department by putting Lane Johnson on so that they could dispel some of the offseason comments that were made by Jalen, by some of the notions that some people may have about Hurts, and trying to clean some stuff up. What's your take on that? What's your take on that the PR department would go out of their way to put Lane on a show to clean up some of the things that have been said?
I'm all right with it. And I'll tell you why. I'm not all right with it from the perspective of there's clearly issues that are trying to be covered up right now. But look, I mean, they are $1 billion franchise, right? I mean, public narrative, public.
Well, is it genuine?
It may not be genuine, but they're going to do it. It's a business, right? I mean, if you have a guy like Lane Johnson, he's made over $100 million here in Philadelphia, and you have a guy like if they're able to do it, they're going to do it, right? It's a business. I get it. I'm a business guy. I own a business here on JAKIB. Like, I understand what it takes to do things to try and make your business succeed. From that perspective, I'm not mad at it, but it certainly doesn't close the door that there's problems, right? I mean, if anything, it might prove that more, because they knew they had this 6-week layoff, and, they send out Lane, to try and correct the narrative. And I'm okay with the move, but it does signify that, there's something here.
Disciple goes, who would you believe, the guy with the playbook or the guy begging his question to be answered? The guy with the playbook, obviously. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I do. I get it. Here's another one, Xander. Xander and Sills, I appreciate the honesty. Again, and I'm not going to tweet that out because I don't want to create any more of a mess that I have to hear with my bosses coming to me. But I know this because I talked to Darren Smith, who does some work for that show and behind the scenes, and people at the NFL Network. One of the guys at the NFL Network was a producer for me in San Diego. And he told me that the Eagles called and tried and put Lane on and wanted Lane to be interviewed by Rich, and Rich said, okay. And they put him on. Here's my take on it, man. Really? So you went out of your way to call a show to impose on them to put a guest on because you felt uncomfortable by some of the comments that are being made by Jeff McClain, myself, and others in your market that you thought, again, both you and me do this, Xander. It's a nothing burger. Let it alone. I agree with you. Let it alone.
Well, they didn't, and now they've made it bigger than it is, and this is such a
for the PR guys.
It is, but it's such a wait and see thing because I do understand the comments of people who are like, guys, like your media, you know what I mean? Like, or you're blowing it. It's a press conference, but man, we collapsed last year, and that was not an untalented roster. I mean, something happened there, and it doesn't seem like the problems have been fixed at all. And, the Eagle fan in me is optimistic. I think we have a great roster. I think we're going to turn it around. I think we're going to win games. The objective guy who sits on here and talks about the stuff for people to listen to is like, There was a problem last year, and it doesn't look like it's been solved or been fixed. So that's what I'm going to be looking for going into the year. We'll see, if they're able to overcome it. I think they have the talent to overcome it, but it's hard. I mean, if you're fighting against your front office, that's an uphill battle.
I want to throw something at you here, and this is in a good light. Somebody brought this to my attention. So Howie Roseman this year with Jalen Hurts' contract, only 6% of the cap.
It's amazing, man.
Is it affecting with $50 million paycheck that they're going to write this year for that guy? Are you crazy great? Dude, look at the Cowboys. This is what I was talking with Mark about. You're in a $60 million dilemma. Hey, guys, we appreciate that. That's really good.
Hit him straight out there, Charlie. Thanks for tuning in, brother.
Hey, Xander, the Cowboys are in a $60 million dilemma. 6% of your $240 million salary cap is affected by the number one position on your football team. It's just insane how great of a deal that may be one of the greatest constructed contracts. Now, again, his production, he has to play, he has to win. I get all that, but Xander, come on, man. That's genius.
Yeah, I mean, eventually the cap hits are going to come, but it's who it's credit to? It's more of a credit to the owner. Yep, because he's willing to stroke checks that allow Howie to structure contracts this way. Now, like I said, I mean, eventually, if you look at the fine print, like next year, 2025, we have less cap space in 25 right now available than we do right now in 24. We got like 27 million or 25 million, whatever it is.
27.7.
We have like 10 million next year. So, I mean, eventually the contracts do come, but that's when Howie gets more creative. He restructures, extends people, and that's why he's so aggressive in the way that he is. But it's the biggest credit to this front office, man. It really is. I mean, there's problems with them. There's things you can criticize about them. There are things I don't like that they do. But the one thing they do right is when they like a player, when they want a player to be here, they figure out how to keep them here, and they figure out how to make it work so that they can continue to build the team around them. I mean, there's not another team in the league right now that has a quarterback making the type of money Jalen Hurts is making and has a team around. I mean, but look at any other team that has an incredible roster is doomed to eventually lose many of those players. We have all of our guys that we want to keep here long-term locked up. You can't say that about anywhere else. Even San Francisco, you're already starting to see it. Ayuk, maybe they're going to work it out with them, but they haven't even paid Purdy yet. Now Detroit's a good one. Like they're building that roster, but they got a lot of young guys. They got a lot of young guys on defense.
2 years from now, that'll look different.
Exactly. 2 years from now, that's going to look a lot different. Those receivers, they got a lot. Now they paid the one, but they have Jameson Williams. They have some other guys in the pipeline. So it's the biggest thing. It's tight end. Exactly. So it's the biggest credit to this front office. It's the one thing that you cannot knock them on. There is no knock. It's a credit to them. They do their business well. Howie is tremendous at it. Yep. He's learned the game. He's optimized. He's figured it out. It's one of my favorite things about Howie Roseman is he learns from his mistakes, right? Like and sometimes the mistakes are so bad that it costs you more assets later. But I'd rather that than him making the same mistakes over and over again, right? I mean, yeah, we missed on Rager, right? And we had to use another first-round pick on Devontae Smith. But at least he went out and corrected it. At least he showed he learned what he did wrong. He took the proven guy from Alabama, and boom, now we have a guy who's under contract that is a all-pro or a potential all-pro. I mean,
let me ask you this: Does the A.J. Brown trade, does that erase Rager? Because I think it does.
Well, yeah, but the knock would be like if you had to pick a knock. No, it would be that you had to trade another first-round pick. To get a receiver, and it's not the money because if Rager, let's just say Rager panned out, which never would have happened looking back at it, but he would be making the money. So it's not really the money. It's the fact that you technically had to use 2 first-round picks to get the receiver. But again, I'd rather him correct it. I'd rather have A.J. Brown than sit here and sulk, Jalen Rager, and then you sign a guy on the scrap heap. So I think Howie's approach is sound. I think our team is very solid, and I love the approach of building in the lines. Right. I mean, most teams are so infatuated. That's why I hated and I still look like a dumbass because Jamar Chase has turned out what he's turned out to be. But I continue to this day. I say they should have taken Penei Sewell. You have Joe Burrow. You need to protect that man. You need to protect that man more than you need a target for him to throw to, because he'll be able to throw to somebody else. He won't be able to get another guy to
Receivers
protect
are
him.
interchangeable.
I know. And a star tackle like that is not. And now, look, he went to Detroit, and what's one of the biggest parts of Detroit? They have the number one offensive line in the league, I would say.
Yeah.
Past the Eagles now.
Yeah.
And you know,
Eagles
you can
are 1,
see,
2, 3. They're in there somewhere.
they're in there. They're in there. But that Detroit line, dude, is absolutely incredible. I mean, they are just stacked head to toe. They replaced the one guy they lost. I mean, they're this just the trenches is where you got to build from, and the Eagles have always done a good job at it.
I got to tell you something. You made a comment the other day, and I commented on that comment. You said that, credit to the Eagles and how they build in their offensive line. And I completely tell you that Jeff Stoutland decision on not wanting to move off of him, you got to think about it, dude. Jeff Stoutland is more important to Howie Roseman than any other coach on that staff, including the head coach, when it comes, because what's the one thing that they've been good at for the last 24 years? Howard Mudd, Juan Castillo, getting a guy like Stoutland. That has always been the Joe Banner deal. It has been the guy with Howie Roseman. That guy is so essential in developing, because look, you take Cam in the second. Cam's probably going to be a Pro Bowler this year. And the development of all these guys, and you've got a guy like Micaiah Becton wanting to be coach. Can you imagine? You have a guy like Stoutland. You have a guy who evaluates college scouting, and you also have a guy, because he was at the University of Miami when he was down there, and he knows college guys, and you have guys that are in the league wanting to come and play in Philadelphia. What an asset that is for Howie. I'm not getting rid of that for an OC, no matter how talented he is, because you know why? The Eagles are built on O-line. Plain and simple, dude. That was a great call by you. Now, 2 more last questions here for you. You are the absolute perfect person, because you were at Alabama for this. So the Miami Dolphins are not wanting, it's being reported, to give Tua Tagovailoa a market value deal. Now, obviously, it's got a lot to do with the concussions. But if you look at the last 3 years here, here's Hurts, and this is from the pocket. I know the running, and I get it, but I'm talking from the pocket. And he's been in and out of the lineup. He's missed 10 more games than what Jalen's played in the last 3 years. Both of them are around 450 in attempts. Completions, 300, both of them. One's got 36.08 Tua. The other guy's got 35.67. Tagovailoa's more accurate, 67.3. Hurts is 64.4. Tua's thrown for 23 touchdowns. Hurts 20 over the last 3 years as an average. Both are at 10 picks. And Tua, like he was at Alabama, is a little tick above what Hurts is, 98.7 to 92.6. When I look at these two guys are somewhat compatible, but Tua is better from the pocket. Why would you – is the only reason that Tagovailoa is not going to get a $50 million deal is because of injuries and availability? And this is what the Eagles are exactly worried about, and why they don't want to run those RPOs, because they don't want to have the same issue that they have to deal with what Miami's dealing with Tua.
I think Tua is going to get the money. I do.
I think he is too.
Well, here's why. Because
Prince says that he has Tyreek Hill. You have AJ and Devontae.
Yeah.
I know he's got Jalen Waddle, and he's got, they're compatible.
Listen,
and I would take the Eagle receivers.
Tua is a good thrower of the foot. He doesn't have a huge arm, actually. He can't throw the ball massive, but he's very accurate, and he moves the ball well. He's got great.
He's a better pocket passer than Jalen? I do.
Absolutely. There are different styles of quarterback. I mean, Tua is a pocket passing quarterback. Yeah, I'm just saying he doesn't have like this cannon type of arm.
No.
But he's not. But he's that guy. I mean, here's why I say they're going to pay him. What are you going to do if you don't? You paid Tyreek Hill. You got Jalen Waddle. You got all. I mean, you built this offense. Are you really going to risk the last couple of years of Tyreek Hill and the offense as a unit as it is right now to try and go and get another quarterback? I just don't see it. And they might not want to pay him, and I think it's warranted. Look, I'm a Tua guy. I'll never forget being in the Innisfree bar at Alabama when they benched Jalen Hurts in the halfway through the game, and they rolled out Tua Tagovailoa. The whole bar is going nuts. Holy shit, they benched Jalen Hurts, who, by the way, was like 13-0 as a freshman. He was on
SEC Player of the Year.
SEC Player of the Year. Like, he was on an absolute tear, and I'll never forget that. So, there's a warm place in my heart. By the way, another great story about Tua Tagovailoa before I continue. I had entrepreneurship class with Tua at Alabama, and he's one of those guys. And this is just about the person, not about the player, but he's one of those guys that sits down, talks to you, acts like you're just another guy. Like he doesn't care that you're not a football. He talked to me. I had great conversation. I have his number in my phone. Like Tua was a good guy. He was a really good dude. So I have a warm place in my heart for him, but it's concerning, man. Those concussions are nasty. When you saw him hit last year and the fingers went goofy and he slammed his head,
the wobbling around, and then they put him back in. You were
full
like,
disclosure,
criminal.
Full disclosure, man. I love football, but sometimes I struggle watching that shit, man. Like I couldn't watch that replay. I could when Damar Hamlin went down.
In NFL that I've seen.
I can't. Some of the injuries that happen, I hate it, man. I hate watching it, and so it's a fair thing. I mean, I would be very concerned about it with Tua, but look, there's ways to structure these contracts where you have a way out, and they're going to pay Tua. They're going to be all right. But to your point, he's a better pocket passer than Jalen Hurts, and maybe you are right. Maybe maybe this is all about Hurts' health, and they don't want to put him in those positions. And naturally, his style of play is more dangerous. That now, you could argue a lot of people get hurt in the pocket, which is fine too. But when you have an offensive line like us, it doesn't happen often. It's when you run, and that's when he gets hurt. But it's fair. I hope not, because you paid the guy to be a dual threat, and let him be the dual threat. Even if you only get a couple years out of it, who cares? Let him live out this contract being the best version of Jalen Hurts and see where it could take us. We damn near won the Super Bowl with it. Go and get one. If we get one Super Bowl in 4 years of Jalen Hurts, I'd rather have that than 10 years of Jalen Hurts and no Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Last question here for you.
By the way, when you're done this question, I want to comment on Mike Vick too, because you were talking about Mike Vick a little earlier.
You tell me. Are we going to see a lot of the starters in the exhibition season? New coordinators. They had a mandatory minicamp first time.
Nah, this is an organizational philosophy that will override any coaches.
But how do you know what you have in the back? How are you going to shuffle out the secondary and figure out who's going to be CB2, who's going to play in the slot? You can't do that with controlled scrimmages, Xander. How are you gonna shuffle the deck on that?
I know. I just don't see it, dude. Like maybe here's where I think you'll see it. You'll see maybe a little bit of an increase in playing time. Anybody young or anybody unproven, but Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, even Cam Jurgens probably. Lane Johnson. These are guys that I would bet Jalen Carter, he doesn't hit the field. Jordan Davis, he won't hit the field. I think it's their organizational philosophy. I'm all right with it because the preseason has become what it's become because of this, right? Like the games are just like they're nearly unwatchable. I mean, they don't even do anything. It's it's not even like football. It's more like flag football.
They're not watchable.
Yeah. And so, I don't think they're going to do it, though. I think they should. I see what you're saying. I think they should, because especially with the new coordinators where it's like we've already talked about how long it's going to take to get this thing going. 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. We don't know. And I think that would help that. But look, we're talking about it with Hurts, man. Like, I don't think they want these guys getting hurt. I don't think they want any risk of that. And they're probably going to go that way. That's also seems to be Nick Sirianni's philosophy. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just an organizational thing and he's got no choice. But I don't think they're going to play guys in the preseason. I wouldn't expect it. That's what I'll say.
Okay, your Vick love affair. Let me hear it.
Well, I don't. It's not a love affair. But JM made the point of he never played in his prime, so I can't sit here and say the guy never won. He did never win. But look, man, the guy was in prison for the years when he would have really catapulted.
And it was his prime years.
And that year he had in Atlanta before that all went down was unbelievable.
Do you remember what they had scheduled the following year? He had 8 primetime games.
Yeah, and he was the highest paid player in NFL history at the time. Yeah.
In primetime games, Monday night, Thursday night, they had him on the 4:30 game. Because of what he did. I say that my take on Vick is he's one of the most electric players that the NFL has ever seen on total skill set. He is just the prime example of what you ever want to see. But when it came to playing the quarterback position, he was limited. He was just limited when it came to his acronym of understanding the Brady way of playing when it came. Like somebody goes like this. Was Brady ever electric? Was Tom Brady ever electric in how he won games? I just never really thought that he was electric. So, I mean, but you talk about a guy who was just absolutely insane and how great he was. There's no doubt Michael Vick had an absolutely fantastic, athletic career. But as a quarterback that's going to win you that game, he was never like Cam was a better version of what Vick did when it came to athleticism at the position. I don't think you have to be the greatest athlete on the planet. Okay? I think we lost Xander a little bit here, but hey, I don't think you have to be the greatest athlete to play the position of quarterback. I just don't. Okay? I just do not believe that. So if we want to say goodbye to Xander here, hopefully hey, wait, I'm awake. Are you? What did he win? How far did he take a team? Vick was electric to watch. There's no getting around it. But when it came to winning the game, Brady was check down Charlie. That's how he won 7 Super Bowls. He won 7 Super Bowls doing it that way. Okay? That's how he won them Super Bowls. I think Michael Vick was an absolutely sensational player. Xander, you here with us, brother? Hopefully, Xander, you here with us? See if we could just kind of wrap this bad puppy up here and say this thing and get this thing all hooked up, rocking and rolling. Don't forget at 4:32, Mark Farzetta is going to be with us here. Let's do this. We'll say goodbye to Xander here. All good, brother. All good, brother. We're good, man. Don't worry about it. It was okay. Well, the internet's lagging here a little bit, so we'll hang in there. We want to say goodbye to him because I thought he was great. He brought a lot of great stuff today. I'll tell you what, you got to go back and listen to that Les Bowen interview because I thought Les was fantastic today. History proves that. Peyton was not a great athlete. Brady not a great athlete. Bradshaw not a great athlete. That's right, Bob. That's absolutely correct. Vick has admitted that he should have spent more time in the film room. Chuck, remember what he said when he got to Philly? God, I wish I had Andy Reid early in my career. It'd have been a whole different resume for me if I had Andy Reid. Cosmo, I saw you asking this question throughout the time we had Xander on. Who's more important, Stoutland or Hurts? Hurts. Quarterback's got to be it, guy. He's totally got to be it. Let's see if we can bring up my boy Xander here. Hey, man, you've been fighting it today, brother.
Oh, man, I'm battling it. You got me?
Yeah, I got you here, man. We're good.
All right, wait, I just want to finish up my comments on Vick. Sorry, everybody. I'm at Panera. The internet's going in and out. I'm trying to battle through here. But I just want to say about Vick. Vick walked so all the dual threats of today could run. He was the original, one of the not the original. I get it, Randall. There's been many guys, but in the modern era, that's who I remember when I was a kid. He was the guy that ran the football. He was the guy with the huge arm. He was that guy. And I know he never reached the pinnacle, but Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, I bet you these guys all love Michael Vick because he played a huge part in the NFL becoming what it is today, becoming a league filled with black quarterbacks. They're all over the league. They're the highest paid guys, and it's a beautiful thing. It's amazing to see what the league is becoming. Michael Vick was a massive part of that. I loved watching him. He was my favorite quarterback when I was a kid, when I was younger. Wasn't that young, but I mean, he was one of the guys I really loved to watch him play. I know it was unfortunate what happened to him with everything, and I get all that, but just an amazing player. And, you know, I think he had a big part in what you see now in the NFL. I know Slider, I knew Cunningham was going to come up. I get it. I agree. I think modern though. I mean, and you see, you know, the NFL didn't really change right after Randall. It was still a pocket passing league. And in many cases it still is today, but you see a lot more style. And I thought Vick was a massive part of that. I'm a huge fan, and that's it.
No. I think
that
you're
out
right
because
that
I thought that.
Hey, I think you're right that he opened the door for the dual threat ability to be drafted because prior to Michael Vick, you're not drafting somebody like Jalen Hurts. You're not drafting Kyler Murray.
Dream.
You're not drafting those guys. You're just not. You know, you're not drafting those guys. Xander, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much, Xander. I appreciate it, brother. I know that your internet's going in and out right now. Hopefully we're able to go to a
100%.
timeout here. Xander, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Do me a favor, guys. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your greenhouse? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Mark Farzetta is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Guys, please hit the like button. We appreciate it. Some of you guys give me a like total. I think we're lagging behind a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, Maniac pointed something out. 91. We're a little bit behind here, guys. Please hit the like button. We hope you guys will be able to do that for us here as we make sure the show continues to grow. Mark Farzetta is going to join us at 4:30 Eastern time. Sue, thank you. 96. Got to get that number up, folks. I appreciate you guys coming aboard, like I'd say. Each and every single day, you guys have been great. And especially, I'm going to say this to you guys. You guys have been great in the offseason here. In the calm before the storm. I like it. Guys have been great. Let me throw something out at you here. Sills, are you hearing about any team cap casualties? Not yet. Not yet. I'm not. Howard, thank you, my friend. Have you set the bar too high? And expectations. And why? I tell you this. Here are the teams with high expectations this year. Kansas City, San Francisco, Philly, Detroit. Dallas always has them. Never lives up to them. But are these expectations, I mean, are they too much? Have you set a standard for your team that is actually almost unattainable? Green Bay, JM, agreed. Look, and I'm not saying you shouldn't want to win a Super Bowl every year. That's not the comment here. The quarterback has to be top 3. No, he doesn't. Wide receiver has to be the best. No, he doesn't. None of those play a factor. The expectations for wide receivers in Kansas City is not high, nor in Green Bay. Now, certain positions, it's always going to be high because of the money that you're generating. I get it. Houston, I would say this to you, Richard. I don't think Houston has high expectations. I think they have growing expectations. I mean, expectations, you want to see a leap from you did from year 1 to year 2, and you want to continue to see that progress with CJ Stroud. So I think there's a different form of expectations here. But it just seems it's almost unattainable a little bit here to expect that this Super Bowl team be a Super Bowl contender every year. Or am I contradicting myself? Because, again, I find myself being that right now. Because, again, you should strive for being a Super Bowl champion every year. But it also puts massive pressure on everyone surrounding the organization when you do these things. And sometimes when you fall short, like look at what happened last year. You won 11 games. Everyone had a really good year statistically. It just didn't end the way you wanted it, and it didn't have a good optics look to it. But expectations are so high here. I think that's a great thing. I'm not making this come off as, and by the way, I'm not trying to temper that. I'm not trying to temper that. Expectations too lofty after epic collapse. Ain't drinking the PR Kool-Aid, says Chuck. See, that's another thing. Chuck, can you really have high expectations on 2 new coordinators going into this year to win a Super Bowl? Have you ever seen anything like that where a team changed its coordinators and they won a Super Bowl the next year? Have you ever seen that? Where a team fired their coordinators, 2 brand new coordinators come in and they win a Super Bowl. Have you ever seen that? Has that ever been accomplished? So when you put these expectations out there on this, isn't this still a growing process here with your quarterback? How can you expect 2 new coordinators, 2 new play callers on both sides of the football? Okay? On both sides of the football. And you expect to win a Super Bowl this year? No way. Here, you have more talent. Hey, let's take the quarterbacks out of the building. What does Kansas City have on you? And again, I know the quarterback is a gigantic factor. I do. I get it. But what is the one thing that they have over every team in the league right now? What's the one thing they have? JM says defense. I think they're good. Okay. Kyle says Andy Reid. Spags says Cosmo. Leadership says Maxon. I said take Mahomes out of it, Flexen. Take Mahomes out of it. What's the one thing they have over you right now? You know what I say it is? Continuity. Spags, Andy. Spags, Andy. Spags, Andy. San Francisco doesn't have continuity. You got Kyle. You went from Steve Wilkes to the new guy. Robert, look at how many defensive coordinators you've had in the last 3 years in San Francisco. That's not continuity. And you got a better roster than Kansas City. Coaching stability, Big Marshall. That's it. So what makes you think you're going to win a Super Bowl when you have no continuity? Or it's at the beginning stages of continuity. I tell you this, and and I know you probably get bored of this when I say this to you, but there's a reason that Pittsburgh has always been good. They have continuity in their coaching staffs. Mike Tomlin wins with lesser talent. Why? Continuity in his coaching staff. Very few coaches. Hey, that Matt Canada thing was a disaster for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was a complete disaster. That's not the Pittsburgh way of doing things. They don't like in-season firings. They don't like doing that. That's not who they are. They don't want to fire coaches. Pittsburgh doesn't they don't make that a priority. Okay? Twist says that Mike Tomlin's overrated. Hoss, Mike Tomlin's going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If Mike Tomlin's overrated, Tony Dungy's overrated. I mean, he's overrated. Mike Tomlin's a better coach than Dungy. Okay? He's a better coach than Dungy. You got Peyton Manning and you can't win more than one? Come on, dog. Okay? And I even wrote down my 5 favorite coaches right now in the league. 5 best coaches in the NFL right now. Sean McVay, Rams. Reed, KC. Matt LaFleur, Green Bay. Tomlin, Pittsburgh. And Kyle Shanahan, San Francisco. Those are your 5 best coaches. You know what? I'm going to do something here. I'm going to take LaFleur off that list and put John Harbaugh. McVay, Reed, Harbaugh, John, Tomlin, and Shanahan. Those are the guys. We haven't had this next friend on in a bit, which is a good thing because we've built up some really good conversation for the man. And you know what I like about Mark Farzetta? By the way, he starts our broadcast morning off each and every single day here on JAKIB Sports. And I'm going to make this comment to him before I bring him up. And I want him to hear this as I set it up for him. I'm going to do it again. The Philadelphia Eagles PR department has had a brutal offseason. And here's why. So you don't prep your $50 million quarterback on a hot topic question that's going to be, hey, what's your relationship with Nick? What's Nick's role? And your $50 million quarterback, who Jalen Hurts, probably just answered it because it's a nothing burger. I don't know. I'm working with Kellen now. And now a meathead like me is going to go, so he doesn't know the role for this coach. What guy in that kind of relationship is that? And then you know what you get the PR department guys doing? And I want Mark to hear this. So yesterday I talked to my friends over at the Rich Eisen show. So Bob Lang calls up the Rich Eisen show to get Lane Johnson on so that they can have Lane be a mouthpiece to kind of clean up some of the off-season shit that's been said. That's not genuine. Mark's been in this business a long time, and he gets it. Let's bring him up here. About that nugget for you, Mark.
You didn't that didn't pass your smell test either there, friend? That little answer from Jalen Hurts a couple weeks ago?
You know what, too? What made it crazy was he paused and went, hey, man, I don't know what his role is, and I don't know. You'll have to ask him. And I went like this. Oh, that's interesting to know that the coach doesn't have a role in the number one player's eyes.
Yeah.
But Mark, I'll get to his part of it. But how are you not preparing him for a hot topic question like that, to have a response that he goes, hey, Nick's great. The whole organization, we're working in a new kind of environment in a way. Nick's got control of it. It's almost like he refuses to go down that lane. It was teed up for him, right? Was it not? It was like T-ball.
Our friend John McMullen was at the press conference, and I believe they had Martin Frank on the show, the guy that asked the question. And the question, as you're paraphrasing it, is a tougher question than the question that was actually answered, or the question that was actually asked. The question was more along the lines of, hey, say something nice about Nick Sirianni. A lot of these people are crapping on Nick Sirianni. Say something nice about Nick Sirianni. And Jalen Hurts was, Now, here's the thing. I think this actually speaks to, like, put it this way. Sometimes if you're a boss, you would like an employee not necessarily to lie, but maybe improve the truth a little bit. Yeah, just sprinkle a little sugar on top of that, all right?
Yeah.
And Jalen Hurts was like, he honestly reminded me of A.J. Brown a little bit for this reason. A.J. Brown, before A.J. Brown addressed the media and like broke his 2.5 week silence, whatever it was, I was like, he's probably got nothing nice to say and doesn't want to compound the problem. Then you had A.J. Brown address the media, and sure enough, he said, I don't have anything nice to say, so I'm not going to say anything. So that was good. That was all good as my camera goes off for some stupid reason. I'm sorry. The Eagles cut me. The Eagles cut me.
Bob's doing his job. Thank you.
Yeah,
go ahead, man.
Exactly. So the Eagles had this issue where they had a quarterback that didn't have anything nice to say about his head coach, but he also didn't want to lie. Because, yes, you're exactly right. He's been dealing with Kellen Moore, both admittedly by the head coach himself, Nick Sirianni, saying Kellen's in charge. Kellen has a tough decision to make. Like, all these things, it really is amazing to think about the step back and relinquishing of power step by Nick Sirianni since he took over as the head coach. So the question that was asked by Martin Frank, to go back to it, was the adaptability. What does it say about the adaptability of Nick Sirianni? Look, I can't put words in Jalen Hurts' mouth, but what I imagine, my own opinion, is that what ran through his mind is adaptability. They just took away power. You're adapting to less responsibility. Yeah, you and I had talked about this briefly before. There has never been someone like Howie Roseman was put in the broom closet. All right, there has never been anyone closer to the broom closet than Nick Sirianni right now, where he's not fired. He's still the head coach, but no one really understands what he does. When Jalen Hurts was pushed on this easy question, this softball, hey, say something nice about your coach question, he reverted to, I like his message. He's got a good message. He does a good job of giving the message. Oh, so he's a talker. Okay, cool. He's a talker. What about a tactician? What about a strategist? What about that? No. He's got a good message. Okay, thank you. Glad he's the head coach of this football team with his great message.
How about this one, Mark? Do you think he pulled a Doug on them and went, no? Even though they told him and prepped him for it, and he went like this, no, I'm not going to go down that route, and I'm not going to say things that I don't feel.
If you're the Eagles and you have Jalen Hurts, like, you're not prepping them for saying something nice about Nick. I would think, like, you shouldn't.
Oh, so you think they assumed he would take the lob?
What?
And
yeah.
He did? Okay.
Yeah, but to your point, I could envision the Eagles at least having a conversation with Jalen Hurts before his last two press conferences. Like, look, Nick got a tough question. What is his role with the team? What is his responsibility? It's been paraphrased to the famous quote of, what does it say you do here? You know, so if you have an opportunity to say something nice about Nick or put Nick in a good light, put Nick in a good light. That would be what I imagine to be the the most exaggerated part they'd go, as much as they would distill the point. But as far as teeing them up for that question necessarily, I don't know if they'd go that far with it. But again, it's something that would be overlooked, might be even too strong a term. You just have to say something nice about the guy. This isn't, hey, who do you like more, A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith? This isn't like a real question that you have to kind of finesse and finagle. You just have to say something nice about the guy that's still the head coach of your football team. I even put it to this. This ran through my brain because we've had some time to dissect this. Is this out of loyalty to Brian Johnson? It's like, hold on a second. You want me to say something nice about the guy that is still here, but the guy that I knew could have done a better job? Had he been given full reign, like Kellen Moore was given full reign, Brian Johnson could have done a lot better without Nick Sirianni's mesh points of the offense, without his tidbits to stir in the pot and all that. So I wonder if that was out of loyalty more so to Brian Johnson than out of a desire to talk all that ish on Nick Sirianni. That's another thing. That's where my mind started to drift in, I guess, week 3, being removed from the situation.
Okay, I'm going to play a little charades here with you. Who am I? Whoa!
You're a Sicilian Bruce Lee, which I never thought I'd say that.
The samurai running. Hey, man. Hey, I got to tell you, man.
Oh, okay.
When I saw the video and I saw like the Mai Tai umbrella and the slippers and the whole like lafa and the gear and all that, I was like, this guy here, you got to love the Jets. I mean, Jody McDonald would love the Jets in the conversation. You got one guy over in the Middle East in a cave smoking mushrooms. You got another guy in Japan with a samurai sword. I mean, hey, Joe Douglas has it going on up there in New York. Howie may have been right, man.
Yeah.
This guy may have not wanted to play here.
Yeah, under the current contract. And I know you and I were waiting for that news to come out, like, was a contract extension hit yet? No. And my thought on this now is that Howie Roseman said, look, this is the deal we're going to put you on. And this is all we can really do. You have permission to seek a trade. Couldn't get a trade. So the Eagles took care of that with their old friend, Joe Douglas. This is such a great, like, look, if I'm a Jets fan, if this is the Eagles' problem still, then I'm not happy. But damn, this is hilarious now that Howie was ahead of a curve. Good for him. He knew what was going on. He read Hassan Reddick well. He gave him the opportunity. He did right by him and said, but look, this is all we're going to do to bring it back. Now, the other thing is that Howie had the money, and I still rather have Hassan Reddick this year than Bryce Huff this year, you know? So in that regard, you could say it was wrong.
Mark. He didn't want the headache.
Right, but if you give him the money that he wanted, which the Eagles could have afforded, then the money, then there's no headache. There's no bathrobe a half a world away, or a world away, I guess. But I'll say this: it's one of the greatest troll jobs.
Oh yeah.
But I'll say this: I think this troll job is more intentional than Andrew Bynum with the Sixers flamingo dancing in the offseason when he couldn't play because of a bum knee. Like it's that close. Like Andrew Bynum, I think was just being Bynum. I think Hassan Reddick did this in the back of his head to be like, this is really mess with people. So I did enjoy that. And as a Temple guy, I want them slippers too, man. Those look nice.
I was waiting for like a battle of Rodzilla versus Hassan. I mean, I was ready. I was ready for Rodzilla. So
yeah.
Hey, Les Bowman was on this morning with guys from Birds 365, and he said something, Mark, that I never thought, and I never even plugged it in, but he may have been onto something. So look, first, and I'll set it up by asking you this: did Jalen Hurts make his teammates on offense better last year? Do you think? All got contract extensions.
Yeah, I think one of the things that he does, I mean, one of the way he can buy time, like, look, if you're talking about 1, 2, 3 drop out, you know what I mean? Then a lot of times, no. And a lot of the big stats came from his ability to buy time and then find the open receiver. I think he does make the entire offense better, with the exception of the most glaring and obvious thing, which is the turnovers. That is something that has to go by the wayside this year. That will, and I know that we've talked about this before when it comes to Kellen Moore's offense and how it can be running up the score and a high-flying offense and all that stuff. So you might be prone to even more turnovers, but still at the same time, more points. That has to go away this year. You can't have the same type of mental errors and lack of ball security.
He went with that, but you're right. You're dead on with that with the turnovers. But where he went, Les, he said this. Well, how do you know he doesn't like, and how do you know he didn't like the 23 offense? I mean, isn't it so that, well, Shane Steichen's the only guy that's had a year and a half working with Hurts that he's had as an offensive coordinator. You know, the 9-8 season, they took off, they did some good things. The following year was even better. Mark, how do we know Jalen, who was not speaking out this offseason here, and he did make some comments. Here we go again. New offense, 90. How do we know that this guy just didn't want to refine what they did in 23? You got a better running back, you're thinking, upgraded there. Okay, fair enough. But to Jalen's point about continuity, that's what Brady talks about, is continuity in offense. Maybe this is a little bit what he's been kind of broaching here. And Les brought it up. He goes, hey, has anybody really asked him if he hated the 23 offense? I've not heard Hurts say no.
Neither have I. And going back to his comments last year, the positive comments that he would offer were about Brian Johnson in particular. Again, his boy, his guy that he knew for a very long time. And the impression I continue to get is more of along the lines of Hurts feels as if Brian Johnson was handcuffed when it came to not necessarily play calling, because it's all come out that Brian Johnson was a play caller, but if he's calling plays from somebody's crappy scheme, then what good is it? Like if you hand me a dull knife, like thanks for the knife, but it's not cutting anything. You know what I'm saying? So that could be the way that the Eagles quarterback is looking at this. Jalen Hurts is looking at this right now. The other thing that could be going on here is Shane Steichen was here, obviously, with Nick Sirianni when he first got here. Brian Johnson, quarterback's coach, all that. So that big camaraderie. Kellen Moore is an outside agent.
Yeah.
So Kellen Moore could be coming in here and being like, hey, that bubble screen that you love checking down to so much there, Jalen Hurts, that's done. Like, that's no longer – I know that's your comfort zone. I know you like that. I know that's your bread and butter. But that plays crap. Like, all the fans are right. Like, Kellen Moore could have come in and said something to that effect, maybe a little bit more politically savvy than what I just laid out. But that's something that we can't forget, that Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, those two said publicly when you see those bubble screens, you know, that's a lot of times that's Jalen checking out. And it wasn't in the vein of throwing them under the bus. That was in the vein of kind of explaining how the offense is run. Like, Jalen Hurts has power at the line of scrimmage. He could change things at the line of scrimmage. Donovan McNabb, when he was here in Philadelphia, had next to no power at the line of scrimmage like that. In the Andy Reid years, nobody really had any kind of power, really. So that's something that we have to get used to here in Philadelphia. Chip Kelly obviously had all the power in the world when he was here in Philadelphia. Not to bring up that horrible memory, but yeah, to help explain the point. So when it comes to a new offensive coordinator coming in here from an outside party, like a guy who's got 5 years calling plays in the NFL, he could be saying to Jalen Hurts, oh, hey, those things that you really like doing, they're not that efficient. I can make you better. And I know a lot of times when somebody steps into a new zone that they're not necessarily comforted in yet, they can have some problems adapting to that. So I hope that this mini camp went well. I hope that this training camp period goes well. And then when they kick off in Brazil, I hope everybody's simpatico when it comes to how this offense is going to be run.
That's right. We're 27 days away here from the start of training camp. By the way, 2 more questions here for you. So with all that being said, Mark, last year, 2 brand new coordinators took an entire 17-game season, which they never meshed on. It was up and down. It was like a seesaw in many ways. It went high, then it went low. It went high, then it just hit. That's kind of what the offense and defense did last year. Why are we under the notion that this year, with new coordinators, are the expectations of this team too high right now for expecting your football team just because you're paying gigantic money? We see this on super teams all the time. That doesn't necessarily translate into Super Bowls. I mean, continuity. That's the one thing Kansas City has. You take the quarterback away, which is a huge thing. But what do you have? You have Spags and Andy. Spags and Andy. And you've had that for the last 5 years. San Francisco's got 2 new coordinators in 3 years. Okay, they went from Robert Saleh, now they went to Steve Wilkes, and now they got a new guy. There's 3 guys actually in there. That's not continuity. So why are we looking at this right now, Mark, going, hey, we're going to get to the NFC title game and we're a Super Bowl team? How are you saying that when you know that the instability at those coaching positions played a factor last year that won't this year because they're experienced?
Yeah, sometimes people just get the right tools and they know what the hell to do with them. I mean, that's the thing. You can talk about continuity, but if you're continuously doing the wrong thing, it ain't going to get any better. I mean, that's the old Einstein definition of insanity. So the Eagles went out there and they got a wealth of experience, especially on the defensive side of the ball, when it came to the defense with Vic Fangio and 20 years under his belt. And then you have 5 years with Kellen Moore coming in here. So this isn't I hate to use the term like plug and play type of thing, but you purposely pushed one guy aside last year in Sean Desai, who only had 1 year of experience under his belt. And what was it, a total of 13 games with the Eagles as the play calling defense, 12 games as the play calling defensive coordinator, and then went to Matt Patricia, who had a wealth of experience in the Bill Belichick scheme of things, and he didn't do any better. So for me, this is the Eagles going into the old experience bag and saying, bring that experience here. And we expect an expedited process, not Jalen Hurts hasn't had more than 2 years in the same offense, but whenever he has that second year, he really gets it done. No. There's no excuse. We've talked about there are no excuses. I don't want to hear about, here you go. I'll give you one thing that I kind of expect to see, and yes, it is going to affect the team. It's not the coordinators, because I think Kellen Moore knows what he's doing. I think Vic Fangio knows what he's doing. I think the personnel they have is going to be good enough to have a lot of success out of the gate. The one thing that I'm really going to be focused on, that I know some people are going to be using, not necessarily just as an excuse, but a legit explanation for why things could crumble at certain times throughout games, why you could have some bad parts. You might know what it is already. It's Cam Jurgens and it's Jalen Hurts. And I have a boatload of confidence in Cam Jurgens as a talented
I think
center.
He's going to be an all-pro.
This year?
I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler.
Okay. I can see it happening. From a physical standpoint, I could see him not in the same degree or expertise of Jason Kelce. So let's push that aside. Let's just acknowledge that for the people that want to jump on that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the same skill set, I think he can get off the line of scrimmage. He can make blocks downfield. He could do stuff like that. But when it comes to the communication that is so necessary between a center and a quarterback, that's where there's going to be some of those growing pains. That will be the roughest part that I want to see smoothed out through training camp and the early goings of the regular season. That's the only thing I'm looking at that goes, that's where I could see there being a problem. That's a problem I'm expecting. I'm not expecting I'm expecting Kellen Moore and this offense and Jalen Hurts hit the ground running. I'm expecting Vic Fangio and this defense hit the ground running. I don't want any growing pains there. But when it comes to the more one-on-one stuff, player to player, center to quarterback, and even whoever the right guard is going to be, most likely Tyler Steen, everybody being on the same page in those three players right there. That's what I'm going to be looking for and looking at the most when the season gets underway.
Final question for you. I've had a debate with Xander on this and a bunch of other people, but on June 27th, there's one thing that I know that the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm predicting that will happen, and I believe it will happen because it's who you are. The Philadelphia Eagles will have a brand new offensive coordinator next year, this time, June 27th. Because if he wins, he's going to get a head coaching job somewhere, an opportunity, because he would have saved and turned around Jalen Hurts, and he's going to be a hot commodity out there in the open market. If they fail, he's going to be fired, because that's what the Eagles do. They showed us. How high of a probability do you believe that to be, that this time next year, come win or lose, you're going to have a new coordinator? He's had 4 already.
I have a plot twist for you.
Okay.
What if they have a different coordinator but the same play caller? What if they have a disappointing year, but the offense did pretty damn well? And, you don't really like this Nick Sirianni guy, being the head coach anymore. Maybe you can have a guy in Kellen Moore be the head coach and play caller with an offensive coordinator.
That means they fired Doug Peterson and they knew they were wrong. Could they
pretty much.
Could they admit to that?
Possibly. I don't know if they'll make that connection, because I think for them, they just have to look forward. They can't look backwards anymore. And with Nick Sirianni, they said, all right, look, he plays ball. He does that number one thing, which is make us feel like we own the team.
No, they've groomed him perfectly to be the exact head coach that Doug wasn't.
But I could certainly see them moving on from Nick Sirianni and elevating Kellen Moore. It rarely happens. I mean, look, the Eagles have to be a less than mediocre team. Like, I don't even think they have to be god-awful terrible for Nick Sirianni to get fired or anything like that. But it is very rare, and this has been a huge sticking point for me when you talk about this vicious cycle of the Eagles being in a situation with their head coach or coordinator where all of a sudden they're just rotating guys in and you never have that stability that you mentioned with Jalen Hurts. But if they go through the season and they're a subpar team, they're not even like looking like they're a for sure fire playoff team even, I could see Nick Sirianni getting fired in that motion and Kellen Moore being named the interim head coach, then later the head coach, similar to what we saw with the Raiders and Antonio Pierce. Not that I'm looking at the Eagles like I want them to be run like the Raiders by any means, but it's just a situation that you can look at that could parallel itself in Philadelphia.
I'll leave you with this. One more impression. Yo, Son Reddick versus Rod Rilla.
That's good.
And Howie Roseman. The battle at the link. And the guy who's going to moderate, Jody McDowell. How you doing? Donnie McDonald. How you doing? Hassan Reddick.
That's good. That's pretty solid. I got an impression for you. I just fixed a sink. I'm like Mario, brother. I'm like Mario.
You just fixed the sink?
I would say it was slow drain. It was slow draining, so I had to bring out the old wrench. It's me, Mario. And I took care of that business. And guess what? My wife was trying to blame me for shaving the beard in the sink. No. All blonde hair. Hey,
okay, I'm very offended by this stereotype that Italians know what to do with a wrench. Okay? I'm very offended that he would say, hey, fix the sink at Paisan. Hey, Sileo's plumbing. I'm ready to roll.
I'm only offended if people thought I was using the wrench as a weapon. That's the only way I'd be offended. It's the only way.
Oh, my God.
As misappropriation.
My friend, thank you very much. I appreciate you doing this, brother.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Take ease.
You got it. Don't forget Mark Farzetta in the morning. He starts our broadcasts off each and every single day. Great stuff to him. Thank you guys so much. All right. Where are we in the like list right now? Let's go. $75 an hour. Huh. All right. $75 an hour? How you doing? All right. $75 an hour to do the plumbing? 113. Thank you, Maniac. Hey, Maniac, help me out here, brother. All right, watch this, Maniac. I need you today. Okay? 87 away. I need your help, bro. Okay? I need your help. Help me out here, man. Help me out, all of you. Last hour of the program, we're going to reset. You know, I'll tell you one thing. Has this off-season changed my opinion about how I see the Eagles season going? Okay? Thank you, Maniac. Oh, there's no debating it. I know I had to drop it in there. I know it's a shitty pun. I get it. Seals, who has the second best defensive tackle in Miami Hurricanes history behind Jerome? I hate to say it, but it's Sapp. Cortez is probably third. Jim Burt's got to be up there. I would put Vince Wilfork in that conversation. Okay. Seals top 5 Miami Hurricane D tackles. Here, hang in here for me. Okay. Jerome Brown, 1. Sapp, 2. Cortez, 3. By the way, all 3 would have been Hall of Famers. 2 are. 4 and 5. Now, are we talking about Hurricane top 5? Are we talking about NFL top 5? Are we talking about Hurricane top 5? Or are we talking about NFL top 5? I'm going to put myself 5th. I'll put Vince. I had a better career than Bert did at Miami. Yeah, I never thought about it. I'm in the top 5. I'm in the top 5 to top 7. Yeah, I would say that. Vince was really good on that 0-1 team. Okay? Okay? Sills, Bednarik or Kelsey? Wow, that's a great question. Philadelphia Eagle-wise, who was a more imposing and who was a more demanding player? And who personified the city? Oh, yeah, DFW. You're right, dude. I'm going to take Vince out of there and put Russell Maryland. Jerome Brown, I had a better career than Vince. Vince never did the shit I did. So I'd say Jerome, Sapp, Cortez, Russell, myself. Yeah. Russell Maryland. Thank you, DFW. Russell Maryland is totally a top 5 guy. Boy, Bednarik or Jason Kelsey? Well, let me pose that question to you guys. When you think of Philadelphia Eagle football, you think of Kelsey or do you think Bednarik that personifies your city? Both have championships. Both legendary players. Sills, it also seems Cowboys never replaced Russell Maryland. Yeah. Dude, the Hurricanes had so many first-rounders for years and years in the draft. Absolutely. You know what? Quite frankly, if you think about it, DFW, they haven't had a guy drafted ahead of me 57th since 2000. Since 2003, I think it is. Drafted ahead of me 57th. I was a 56th player taken. 56th player taken. I was. And I was a junior, and I came out early. I had another year of eligibility, I thought. But Bednarik, he played everywhere. He did it first. Kelsey became good after 6 years into his career. As far as Bednarik, in my opinion, still personifies Philadelphia. Like you could put that over and replace him with the Rocky statue. Bednarik grew up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, went to UPenn, lasted the 60-minute players, plus effing game is over in the iconic moment. Slayer. I agree. Sorry. Kelsey is really wonderful. But at the end of the day, Chuck Bednarik personifies Philly. Concrete Charlie. Come on, man. I mean, I remember Urban and other players would go and talk to current Hurricanes and explain what it meant to represent the U. We did that. Jerome and I used to go back and we would have conversations with players like Russell and numerous guys, and we would talk to those dudes all the time. And we said it numerous times. I think I got a soundbite here. I would like you to hear, and I think I may have played it a couple times for some of you guys. But yeah, we had, and I'll make this point, and I want to make it very clear when I make this point to people that I want to show you how I act towards my program, like the University of Miami. And once again, I've been getting a little bit of comments with people saying what I said about the program the other day. Hey man, it's time to it's time to win. It's time to win now. I don't want to hear any more bullshit. I don't want to hear any more bullshit. I don't want to see any more bullshit. I don't want anybody telling me any more about any more bullshit. I want to see some winning. I want to hear everyone, we're becoming like the Cowboy fans a little bit. We're talking about our past from 20 years ago. Well, I'm sick of that shit, man. It's time to freaking win now. This program's got to start winning, man. They've just got to start winning. Getting tired of that BS. Every time I hear people giving me comments and telling me, hey, Sills, this is the year we're going to turn it around. You know what I say? I say this. I go, well, let's see it. Let's see it. And then I'll believe it. Until then, I don't see it. And when we're able to see that, then I'll know. But until then, just jumped up to 122. You guys are really fantastic. I can't tell you how I appreciate that. Yeah, let's see here. Always the best player on offense in Philly. Well, Chuck Bednarik, in my opinion, one of the absolutely, truly greats of all time. I'm trying to find that one thing here that I had. And he talked about, we had such a great, and I agree, Coach O on Jerome and me. It was really, here.
There's no way that
Here.
team could beat me and Jerome Brown and our teams. No way, Coach. I don't believe it.
Here's Coach Ogeron.
Beat me and Jerome Brown and our teams. No way, Coach. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I just no way. Jerome Brown and Dan Sileo over anybody. Back to my Cortez, Kenny, Russell, Maryland, Moreland, Sam. What a great combination of defensive line play. That's how deep it was, Coach. Remember, on a Saturday morning, Russell coming in, and we had the old film, and he'd be watching film with you and Jerome Brown. Coach Edwards, Cortez came in, he watched it. Warren Saturday, he watched it. He seemed like, what a great family of traditional defensive line play, the way to play. You know, one of the best players in college football. What he played in.
Miami stopped winning when they couldn't pick up those stud athletes from local neighborhoods. There's more programs aware of the talent. Okay? Yes. JM, the one thing that Jimmy and Howard Schnellenberger would do, they would go into the areas like Liberty City and Overtown, or they would find a guy like me that had problems, that had been thrown out of school, and they would embrace us, have us come into the program. Guys like me and guys that were trouble, Jimmy was attracted to. He wasn't afraid of it. He wasn't afraid to go into the black neighborhoods and recruit, give a kid an opportunity. University of Miami hated it. They hated the black faces at the university. Coral Gables is a white community, folks. And you had all these inner city kids in Coral Gables. That's not what the university was looking for when it came to winning. They hated our program. They didn't like our program because our program had too many black faces on it. And the wrong black faces. It was inner city kids from Liberty City and Overtown. That's what they didn't like. Okay. You know who ended up doing that? Coach Saban went in to those communities. Dabo Sweeney went in to those communities. Urban Meyer went into those communities. That's why Notre Dame never wins. They don't go into those communities. Notre Dame doesn't accept kids like that. That's why Notre Dame will never win a national championship ever again in today's landscape of college football. Notre Dame will never win a national championship. You know why? They will never recruit kids from inner city because they don't want kids with lower economic standards and lower degrees and education issues and academics, right, Yale? And to lower their academics. They don't want to win. Or they don't want to sacrifice it because winning comes with sacrifice. You see, to me, my program, the University of Miami, what it used to be was hope. If you were a black kid, no money, no future, nothing, selling drugs, army, or being killed. And Miami gave you a chance. The bite at the apple. Tad Foote, our president, who I hate to this day, used to hate that. We give scholarships to black kids like that, or guys like me. They hated me. They just hated me because I wasn't the type that the university, dude, 19% acceptance rate to go to Miami. Kidding me? Not that I'm a dumbass or anything, but I don't belong at a school like that. Because I didn't go to Miami to be an engineer or a doctor. I went to Miami to play football. And they hated kids like us. But you know what they still do to this day? They sell our image. They sell our logo. Not based on any shit they're doing now, but based on the shit I did for you. Every hat you see, ain't the kids today, it goes 7 and 6. Okay? They go 7 and 6. What are you selling them? You're selling them our history. Shit I did. I was 34-1 at UM in 3 years, regular season. National championships. National championship games. Okay? What are you selling now? Us still 30 years ago? Okay? Barb and I are sad to hear that, but you're correct, Dan. Hey, Chuck, I'm sad too, man. You know I have a set of standards for that place that I do not tolerate 9 and 3, 10 and 2. Those are shitty seasons because it means we're not relevant. My program, the University of Miami, is a championship program. It's not a 7 and 6 program. Okay? I don't accept that. I never have, and I never will. It's one of the reasons I got fired at QAM because I didn't accept it. We're the flagship station, and I'm killing them on the air. This is bullshit. Give up 500 yards in total offense? I would have killed myself. I would have had a fight with people in the locker room. So would Jerome. We would have fought people. Dude, we used to get offended. Jerome and I would get offended if you scored a field goal late in the game on us. We would get offended if you gained yards on us. I mean, we could be beating a team 30-0. Guy kicks a field goal. I'm going to clothesline your ass for that on the next play. I did. I was not the same guy I am now. I'm awake, or you? Hey, I was a different dude back then. My aunt can tell you. I was a completely different guy. I was not a very friendly dude. Okay? It's taken me a long time to get here. It's taken me a long time. Sills, what do you think? What do you do? What do you think the energy was when, sorry about that. I remember when it was fashion statement to wear hurricane gear in the 80s and 90s, just like Michigan's today. I like the Michigan program. They had a great swagger about them. Look at Yale. Sure is 40 years ago. It's insane. 40 years ago, and you're still talking about us. Well, the Hurricane swagger come back. Dude, look at this. Jimmy wrote a book, Swagger. What do you think developed that? We did. We developed Swagger. People change for the better, hopefully. I did. My kid helped me more than you know, Yale. Having my daughter made me a different human. And I'm thankful for it. I really am. I'm thankful for it. Completely thankful for it. All right. Where are we in the like total? We got to get to 200. You guys jumped it up a little bit for us there. We got up a little higher. By the end of the program, we're going to reset here. And we're going to hit on some of the things we opened the program up with. Where are we on the like list right now? We're trying to get to 200 likes by the end of the program. 128. All right. So we're 72 away right now, or 62 away from getting to our magic number. Kids pay for our sins. It's not fair. Calm me down having kids. JM, me too. You know, hey, JM, just so you know, I've never had anybody talk more shit to me in my life than my kid. And he just do this. Hey, JM, real quick before I go to break, I think I've told some of you guys a story. I'm sitting on the beach with my kid and my wife, and we're I don't know, I think we're in Florida somewhere. She was a young kid too. And she looked over at me. She said something shitty to me. And I said, if you talk like that to me one more time, I'm going to bury you out here with the crabs in the sand, and they'll never find you again. The lady's looking over at me like this, sitting next to us. My daughter goes, don't worry about it. He can't even move anymore. Don't worry. He's harmless. He'll never do shit like that. My daughter and I looked over at her, said shit, and I looked at Kim and I go like this. I totally hate myself. I looked at Daniel and I go, you know, I hate myself. I was like, hey, he'll never. She goes, don't worry about him. He'll never do it. He can't even move. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Please do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. We so appreciate you guys coming aboard. And we do. Thank you so much for trying to get to 200 likes. There you go, Maniac. Thank you so much to get to 200. And the show ain't over. He's right. We're 66 away, guys. Come on, dudes. Thank you guys so much. You guys make it possible. And you know what we're doing here? We're outgrowing the other shows because of what you're doing. Hey, and know this. Dude, you guys upset with our conversations every day. You upset so many people in Philly that they won't allow hosts to come on here, other talent to come on here. The birds complain about us constantly. This is your show. Hey, I'm just a shit talker behind the mic. And that's all I am today. But so are you. So are you. And you know what the cool thing about what we do here? There's no fear. We'll talk about anything. You know, you don't want to go too political. You don't want to do anything. Hey, tonight I'm looking forward to the debate. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna get popcorn and I'm gonna laugh my ass off. Two old guys, like a weekend at Bernie's. Two old guys that need like Geritol. Like there should be you know who should sponsor this thing? This thing should be at Caesars. Hey, think about this. What do you guys think of this thing for a title? You would have this debate at Caesars and call it the Geezers at Caesars. What do you think? Sponsored by Geritol. Right? The Geezers at Caesars. Tonight, 6 o'clock Eastern. It's the Geezers at Caesars. Sponsored by Geritol. Yeah, right? Yeah, that's what you got tonight. There's no debating. Hey, it is a big deal. The one person in here that I wanted to laugh at that. The one person in here that I wanted to have laugh at that has laughed at that. Okay? Yes, sir. The Geezers at Caesars. And it's sponsored by Geritol and Depends. Oh, my God. Hey, can you see it? Commercials with Depends. Both these guys in Depends. And Geritol commercials. Oxygen commercials. False teeth commercials. I've fallen and I can't get up. That thing, too. Oh my God, right? Oh, oh man. Geezers at Caesars. I like my life and wanted continued stability. Hey, dude, you know, to each his own tonight. Hey, can I say something to you guys? And you know what? We're all right. You guys are right. Whatever your political view is, I don't value your loyalty to the show and what political party you're at. But let me show you something here that's kind of really something that I totally don't subscribe to. So I just saw this here on Outkick. Las Vegas Aces have a key stat section in each of their official game stats and recapping their games. You ready? It's not about rebounds, scoring. It's about notes on Breonna Taylor's death, anti-LGBTQ and bills that have or haven't been passed, and they put that in their game notes every day. You see, the one thing that the WNBA and other leagues don't get, consumers don't want this. You don't come here to listen to my political beliefs. You come here to listen to my sports beliefs. And you barely do that. Nobody cares what Dan Sileo thinks politically. And I don't really care what you think. I'll make that decision first week in November. It's just you're there for the consumer. You know what I'm saying? You're there for the consumer. I'm with you, Xander. Hey, Michael Jordan says it best, and so did Tiger. Republicans buy sneakers too, dude. Okay? You cut off half of America by putting messages like that out there. And now you wonder why Caitlin Clark is getting the heat she gets? Is because you're so swayed to one side of the aisle that you really do look at Caitlin Clark going, well, the only reason you like her is because she's white. No. And maybe. So what? Man. That's a cool thing about us in here. It's about sports fans, dog. Don't give me your bullshit anymore about who to vote for. Okay? I don't care. Let's talk some sports. Sports brings us together. Yeah, Caitlin can play. You want to bet they leave her off the All-Star team? Listen, it's not about if you like Trump or not. It's about how horrendous Biden is. Hey, let's see what this thing looks like tonight. Okay? Let's see what it looks like. I'm interested. All he has to do is show up and not do a bad job, and it'll help him. Let's get Biden to quit. Maniac, stick to fishing, will you? Hey, every time I open up a can of worms, I'm going to take it out of here now. All right. Can I ask you a question about Devontae Smith? All right. When does Devontae Smith make the next step? When's he make the next step? And will the Eagles allow him to make the next step? Doesn't it got to get to a point where you're hoping that guy outplays AJ? Xander brings the point up. How can a number 2 wide receiver and a running base quarterback do that? Oh, I see. So Devontae Smith will never live up to his potential in the Eagle offense. Is that correct? So he'll never be what he potentially could be in that offense. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? Devontae is who he is, which is not awful. But he's not quite a number 1. More targets? That's not going to go over well with a $32 million guy. Hey, WCBJJ goes, what do you mean by next step? Well, are you not hoping one day he becomes better than AJ? So you can eventually move off of AJ? And then there could be another Devontae? He is a first rounder. So he'll never be anything more than he is. Is that right? Xander just said it. How can you have a guy like that that's not really a prolific passer with AJ on the team that gets the majority of the targets? How could he ever fulfill his prophecy at being the potential guy that takes over for AJ? How can that happen? Richard goes, I hope Kellen Moore uses him like CeeDee. The most teams, he would be a number one. We're lucky we got him. Okay, so on most teams, he's a number one, and you're never going to let him become a number one. Is that right, Ray? Right? You're never going to let him be a number one. When does that process happen? 3 years? 2? So the next 3 years, you're going to keep Devontae basically boxed in his career to what he is and what he maybe could be. JM says Hurts needs 2 number ones. Okay. Why can't we talk about moving him around a lot in motion, slot? Seals, imagine if Howie would have drafted Jefferson or Metcalf, pairing him with Devontae. And you would have had all them years of rookie contracts. Think about something else too, Cosmo. Xander's right. The A.J. Brown deal does not cover up because it's 2 ones used. But can you imagine? This year would be the first year. How many years has Jefferson been in the league? 4? So you would have had 4 years of a rookie contract with Justin Jefferson versus the last 2 years of $100 million or $50 million bucks with AJ. 4 years, you would have paid $2, $4, $6, $8 million for Justin Jefferson. You paid $50 million in 2 for AJ. That's the catastrophic miss on Rager. That money could have went everywhere else defensively. You understand the Rager miss? The Dillard miss? Shit like that? How that affects your cap? Because when you don't pick the right guy with those premium picks and you have to cover it with a veteran free agent or a trade, you're spending more money. But how Howie overcomes that, he signs these guys to these 1-year contracts, these prove-it deals. And when these guys do the 1-year prove-it deals, the majority of the money is team-friendly because they give you the bag of money up front. That goes to the owner again. And they do a great job at being able to manage their cap. They do the best job in the NFL at their mistakes. They do the best. Hey, they suck at corners. They went and signed a corner with Bradbury, and they traded for Slay. They suck at edge. They signed Reddick. They made a deal free agency with Huff. I mean, linebackers, they have had trouble with. Okay? They've had trouble at that position. Wide receiver, they've had trouble. Dude, the only guy they've hit on at wide receiver in the last 20 years has been Devontae. They haven't hit on a player like that at wide receiver in 15 years. So it's not like that team knows what they're doing with drafting wide receivers. They don't. It just seems that because the last couple of years they've done a decent job, it seems. We'll see this year. This is going to be a tell year for the Georgia kids. Sills, Jefferson would have made that 4-win season and Doug look different. Well, it's a good take. That's right. They drafted Rager. That was Doug's last year. Wow. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and suggest he drafted Jalen Rager to undermine Doug Peterson, because that was a reflection on him too. Okay? It's hard to be better than a top 5 wide receiver. But he's not, Devontae, a top 5 wide receiver in this league. The front office has been good since Doug. I don't believe defensively, Yale. I think in contract structuring and the moving around of money, I think they've been exceptional. They're aggressive and try to solve the problem. That I give you. My point was that any starting quarterback in the league right now could put up comparable or better numbers than Jalen on this team. Kirk Cousins would blow this team to pieces with the type of numbers that they would put up. But would it win? Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Was that Jefferson was only a slot receiver? Boy, that turned out to be wrong. Boy, did that turn out to be wrong. You know, I never got the Whiteside signing. I saw him at Stanford, and I was like, really? Just never got that. That Whiteside signing and that drafting of him, I saw him at Stanford. And I'm like, I don't get it. Personally, could you imagine if Philly drafted Parsons instead of Smitty? Well, they made the move. It's a good take. Would I rather have Parsons than Smitty? Xander brought a great point up earlier. You think the Bengals would rather have Penei Sewell than Jamar Chase? I do. I will take a good left tackle over a good prospect wide receiver. Or even now, here, if you had to trade one guy, would you trade Jordan Mailata or would you trade Devontae Smith? Who would you trade? I'm going to show you something here. Who would you trade? Devontae or Jordan Mailata? Smith is the right answer. Right. Great players, both of them. Devontae's unguardable. No, he's not. Wide receivers are traded every day, released every day. I'm not name me an offensive tackle. In the last 10 years outside of Trent Williams, Trent demanded a trade because they screwed up his health and his treatment on his health in Washington. You name me a left tackle that's been dealt. That's in his prime, that's a Pro Bowler. Who? You can't replace these left tackles. Wide receivers are replaceable every single day. You don't see old linemen traded. You see receivers. Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill. You don't see these guys. Yeah, and Peters was 40. I just said Trent left Washington because of the health issues that he had with the medical care people in Washington. They misdiagnosed him. That's why he wanted out of Washington. There was a misdiagnosed guy. That's why. Will Rofe, that's 100 years ago. Tunsil was. But here, far less when it comes to the receiver position. My point is, those offensive tackles, when you find a good one, you don't get moved around a lot. Here, get this. So you guys are mentioning some guys. Tunsil, Trent Williams. These guys are good. All the top paid guys in the NFL have been dealt. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown. All the top guys have been dealt. Stephon Diggs is on his third team. These are the top paid guys in the league. Top paid guys. They get dealt every day. Okay. Daniel Snyder screwed that up big time. Guys, please hit the like button. Best thing the Eagles do is build inside out. Actually, Forrest, one of the greatest things that you can ever hear, one of the things Tom Coughlin was really great at, his first stint when he was in Jacksonville was, what was the number 1 overall first pick? You remember? It was Tony Boselli. He drafted him number 1 overall. It was the franchise's first number 1 overall pick, Jacksonville. And they built from the offensive line out. And that's exactly correct. I think it's going to be interesting to see who wins that left guard position or that right guard position. I mean, do you experiment with Becton, or do you go by the standard operating procedure of what the Eagles do they took Tyler Steen in the 3rd round. Is he the guy that they're looking at being that position? Because where does Becton fit in? And to Xander's point, the one thing you got to remember something with Becton. So Mekhi Becton is going to be this guy. God forbid any injuries happen. Hey, I'll tell you this. God forbid Mailata gets hurt. He goes in and he plays at a top flight level. And he plays like an all-pro and he makes a Pro Bowl team. Are you going to keep him? Or are you going to let him go in? Because he's on a 1-year deal. That guy stays healthy. He's like Tyler Smith. What did the Eagles do? They keep him? And he becomes the eventual replacement for Lane at right tackle? I wouldn't let him out of the building. I'd have to come up with a way somehow to keep him in the building. I might overpay him next year. If his agent comes to me and goes, listen, we want to try to work something out and stay here. What does Lane have? 3 years? What's this kid? 25, 26? Dude, you don't really hit your prime. Your prime years as an offensive tackle is like 27 to 35, 34, somewhere in there. So if you're Mekhi Becton and you got the best O-line coach, I would also dictate how long is Jeff Stoutland staying. Cosmo Gosills, it's crazy he wanted to come here. No, you know what he wanted to do? He wanted to elevate his career because he knows that coach can do it. It's a smart move. It's Wentz going to Andy Reid. How do you save your career? Well, let me go to the best guy possible. Get this. So in the last 2 years for Carson Wentz, he's been coached by Sean McVay, and he's been behind Matthew Stafford. Now he's got Mahomes and Andy. If that guy doesn't get a job next offseason, he'll never. He'll never. Sills, who do you think will have a breakout season this year? Isaiah Rodgers. I've been saying it for a month. I think this guy's going to have a great season. And now AJ's now saying it. I think he's going to have a really good year. There's something about this kid. People, dude, when he was in Indianapolis, they liked him, and now they like him here. He has a crazy skill set. Now, look, again, getting guys on the ground, is that important when you just took away the hip drop tackle? How important is tackling now at corner, or just getting the guy somehow on the ground, or corralling him back to traffic and getting him back towards the middle of the field? Do you have to really be an exceptional tackler in today's NFL when they've taken all the skill set things away from you and the tools away from you on potentially being a good tackler? I think it's impossible to be a good tackler today in the NFL. I don't know how they get guys on the ground. And especially at the cornerback position. Wentz is a clipboard caddy. We'll see. AJ talking Isaiah Rodgers up. Love it. I think that's a great thing. Dude, let me tell you something, Mark. If Jerry Rice comes to me, or AJ Brown, Michael Irvin, or Devontae Adams, hey, you're really playing well. It's like an adrenaline shot. Hey, man, thanks. No, I mean it. You're really doing a great job. And here's a couple things that you might want to work on. This is how I get open. You imagine the tools that AJ is teaching the secondary guys? Dude, if I was a cornerback in Philly and AJ Brown was on my freaking team, I would sit down with him, take him to dinner, lunch. Hey, man, when you're at the line of scrimmage and you're trying to get separation, what's your mindset? And what's the thing you do that you can move guys around and how you get that release off the line of scrimmage? What's the one thing you do to the majority of the defensive backs? Now, if he's open to helping you and telling you, which it seems he is, that's worth anything the Eagles could ever hire as a coach. I'd rather listen to AJ than listen to anything a coach is going to tell me. AJ, how do you get free release? How do you get off the line of scrimmage? Well, I use my physicality. So he goes, a guy like when you line up against a guy like DK Metcalf, he's going to run at you. And he's going to try to out-physical you. And then he's going to turn you. Your objective is to keep your hips inside. Turn them always to the outside and turn them to the sidelines. If you ever notice the really great corners, they try to turn you to the sideline. It's like two defenders out there versus one. Worst thing you can do is get an inside release on a corner. If you're the corner, it's over. He's up the seam and you're dead. And you better hope your free safety gets over, because if he doesn't, he's taking that thing to the barn. He's taking that thing to the barn, man. Because when you're out there on an island like that, and these wide receivers get free releases inside, especially when you got the wide side of the field and you're plus 30, it's over. Guy like that will take you to the house. So what you got to do is keep your hips inside. And you got to, dude, I'll give up a 10-yard play. I don't want to give up a 55-yard big play explosion play. No way. I'll give up those plays all day long because I'm hoping the quarterback either fumbles, turnovers, something. That's why that press and release stuff and how what's-his-name plays defense, control and contain, is essential in today's NFL, because you really can't do some of the things you did in the past. I would, if I was Quinyon Mitchell, or I was Cooper DeJean, or I was Isaiah Rodgers, or I was James Bradbury, I'd be working with AJ. Dude, I don't want Jalen Hurts throwing me the ball. I want AJ Brown working with me. I'd ask him, hey, you want to get together? We don't have enough practice time as it is. Can you work with me? Let's go to a gym. Let's go to a school. And let's nothing like high repetitions. There's nothing like it. Okay? And again, this goes back to a little bit what Les Bowen said this morning on Birds 365. And I'll ask you guys one more time this. You know, what's crazy is, how do you know this how do you know the 2023 offense wouldn't have been better this year under Brian Johnson? Did they panic? Can't say they didn't, because they panicked with Desai. Why was Brian Johnson fired, actually? Scapegoat. 11 wins. Everyone got raises. Everyone had career years. Jalen made everybody better on the team. Why was Brian Johnson fired? Is it because they didn't want to fire Nick? So instead of firing Brian Johnson, the guy who maybe Hurts wanted back, they fired Nick. Maybe that's why Jalen has an ass with Nick. Or to what Xander said, how they're handling Nick. I thought that interview today with Les, covering the way he covered the team all these years, he was under a lot of good stuff. Got to go back and listen. That to me, hey, because what makes you better? So figure this out. So last year's team broke all kinds of individual. Dude, your running back got a $10 million deal in Chicago. He didn't suck either. So how many reps did they have last year? Let's just say Jalen had what, 578 passing attempts last year. Numerous, what was it, like 1,000 plays they had? So you took those 1,000 plays of that 2023 offense and you scrapped it for something new this year? All those reps that could have been beneficial to 24, you lit on fire, correct? Now you got to start over again. Whole new play caller. Whole new approach. You're starting over again. One thing is for sure. You're starting over again, whether you like to accept it or not. Hurts tells you they're starting over. You know what Jalen's attitude must have been? Hey, okay, it didn't go great last year. Took us a long time to get on the same page. There were times we weren't. You're just going to blow that up, though, and put all those reps in a trash can and not apply them to another season of continuity? Boy, the Eagles do not believe in continuity on offense. They do not. And there lies your problem in developing of Wentz and also Hurts. Those guys had no chance at continuity and being developed like every other quarterback in the league. You had no chance. Okay? You had no chance. No chance. All those reps. Okay? He struggled with blitzes, pre-snap reads. He saw all the problems that were in that offense last year. You didn't even give Jalen Hurts a chance to fix it. Now what you've done is you decided to fix it for him. That's not how a quarterback's developed. Think about it, Yale. Who would you rather have fix the problem? The Eagles or Hurts? They're not giving Hurts the chance to fix his own problems. They're trying to fix it for him. Not a way to develop a guy. You develop through failure, not excuses. Yale says I would have canned him too. For what? For what? You won 11 games, one game out of the East. It ended poorly. Hurts liked the offense. Now you're starting over. Okay? Starting over. Brand new, new play caller. Here we go again. It's the massive conveyor belt. When is it going to stop? How about this question? Do you think this revolving door ever stops in Philly? And by the way, wouldn't you rather have your quarterback fix the problems than the organization fix them? Why are you paying him $50 million then? If he can't fix it? Why are you paying him 50? Sills, would you fire Howie if this season fails? No way. I'd read the fine, but I'm not firing that guy. He's too good with a checkbook. He's too good with a checkbook. The Eagles balance their books and construct contracts and what they do when it comes to cap management better than any team in the National Football League. And that's how teams are built today, is cap freedom. And when you have cap freedom and you have ability to move around the way you do, dude, I told you this. Jalen Hurts' contract, 6% of the cap is off his salary. That's insanity on a $50 million deal. Not getting rid of that. I may redefine it. And I may have more question marks when it comes. Hey, let's say this. Nolan Smith is a turd. Nakobe Dean's a turd. Devin White bombs. Then you're going to have problems when it comes to, and Bryce Huff doesn't live up to Hassan Reddick. You're going to have question marks. And it's not going to be Vic Fangio's problem. It's going to be Howie Roseman's problem because he didn't bring the proper people in and he overvaluated his analytics department and what they're thinking. This is not going to be a Vic Fangio issue this coming season. This is going to be a Howie Roseman issue because this is going to come down to personnel on that side of the ball if those kids don't pan out. By the way, you got to start playing these young guys. You've got to start playing these young dudes. It's time. And see, when you start playing the young dudes, what happens? You put Howie in the bullseye. These are his selections. These are his picks. How many times has Nick come out in press conferences going like this? Hey, man, you know, he does a really good job when it comes to evaluating. He does an amazing job when it comes to his guys picking the right players. Okay, well, 27 days of finding out when it goes to training camp. Paying him the same way Trevor and Lamar and Burrow and Baker and Goff got paid. Not sure where you are with that. Sills, I would have Howie handle contracts and trades and bring in someone to handle the draft. Who would you have hire assistant coaches, Kyle? Because you understand when you hire assistant coaches, most of the time when you hire an assistant coach, it contradicts the personnel department. You understand that Howie hires assistant coaches or gives them the list to pick from of assistant coaches that's compatible with the players that he picks. That's why Howie picks the assistants or has a say in what assistants are on the team because it's compatible with the type of player he has signed. Makes it easier. And to some extent, it's not far off being wrong. Dad says, who are good personnel guys outside of Philly that the Eagles could go after? I'll tell you this, I've mentioned him numerous times. I like that John Dorsey guy. John's got a really shitty disposition about himself. And I like John Dorsey. However, I'd go to somebody in that Nick Caserio front office. Just go to places that people have success when it comes to personnel decisions. I think the Rams have some good people with Kevin Demoff, Les Snead. I think they do a nice job in San Francisco at evaluating. Look, Fred Warner's a third-round pick. Nakobe Dean's a third-round pick. John Lynch is a better and has a better eyeball for talent. Now, the Trey Lance was not his call. Kyle wanted Trey. He wanted Mac Jones. Not that either were better, but right? All right. Guys, do me a favor. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sil's National Football Show. Please hit the like button. Thank you guys so much for your efforts today. We so appreciate it. Is this scary or not scary? You see what they're doing at the Olympics now? So they're going to use AI and Al Michaels' voice to do all the highlights for the Olympics and the nightly highlights using his voice. And they're using AI to do it. Thank you, Senora. Appreciate you, brother. Okay? Think about it. So the guy doesn't have to be, by the way, Al Michaels has signed off on it. He's got behind this. Seals, did you hear that USA Football lost to Japan? I heard by 21 points. Hey, I'm awake. Are you? Are you nervous about that? That somebody could take your voice, your voice and image, and recreate you? Kind of like Skynet. This is exactly like Skynet. Okay? Like Terminator. This is like Terminator shit. Right? So you don't really need Al Michaels anymore. Does he get paid for that? Your likeness and your voice is being used to do highlights for the Olympics. I'd like to see this. Well, shit, why don't you just bring back the halftime highlights with Howard Cosell on Monday Night Football? Hey, Senor, can you imagine this one? Cosell doing the halftime highlights on Monday Night Football. Boy, I'd listen to that. Those were some of my favorite things of all time, was the halftime highlights on Monday Night Football with Cosell doing it. Dude, you're going to see more of this. Hey, pretty soon, are we really going to see a movie with Marlon Brando in it? A brand new movie with Brando, but it's never been before released? This AI thing, it's kind of scary in a way. All right. Guys, great stuff. I'll tell you what, man. Tonight, the debate. I don't know who wins, nor do I care. I just want to be entertained tonight. I want to laugh, and I want to cringe. I like two things. I want to cringe a little, and I want to laugh a lot. Okay? Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Xander. 2 to 6 tomorrow, and we shall see you on the flip side.